great to be here with you again.
Nice to have you, Jack.
We're trying to get to the bottom of the mystery here,
Yeah.
starting from the beginning, because we know there's a lot that you have to tell us to fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And really what we wanted to get at, obviously there was a key event relative to your concussion, but we wanted to ask you a little bit going into this, where that was the tipping point for you, your background and growing up in terms of exposure to paranormal. For example, what did you think of spirits, and what kind of, as a kid growing up, did you come into any contact with this? Or?
Well, that's an interesting question, but I always kind of psychoanalyzed it and kind of walked away from it, not really believing in the paranormal. So I can remember a few times in my house, it was an older house, that I'd hit sounds and someone would come from a different area. And it would scare me, but yet I didn't believe in it. So I really didn't have a belief in that my old house was haunted or anything lived there in any really kind of way. So when I was 13, my father died. And I was an altar boy up until that point. We had a small church. I was always the altar boy. And a few months after he died, I asked the priest, I go, who created us? And he goes, well, God did. And I go, well, who created God? He goes, well, you just have to believe. And I go, well, why can't I just believe that we created us? We just manifested. He goes, well, because God created us. I go, well, who created God? And we went back and forth, and he couldn't answer it. And that was my last day being an altar boy. And I just gave up. And my father's dead. And I really just had a vision of, this is a joke. Religion is a business. It came about because the caveman didn't understand when the stars were out and when the sun was shining, and we needed logic and reason. And I kind of moved right through that, and there was absolutely no such thing as anything beyond what we can see. And I was absolutely convinced of it, that it's just a business, it's just a way of power, a way of controlling people, and religion had seen its day. And there was nothing beyond what we could see. I was convinced of that. There was nothing in my mind that would change that. Nothing at all.
What about losing your father, though? At 13, how did you feel about your father after he passed? And
he died, but I remember feeling that it felt like everybody, and I felt so vulnerable when he died. Because it was just me, my mother, my father, and my grandmother died only a few months prior to that. So with my father gone, he was like the protector of the house and everything, and it just felt like every criminal in the world was going to break in, and it was just the most vulnerable feeling in the world.
So it's almost like, because you were Catholic and as an altar boy?
I was National Catholic.
National Catholic.
Not Roman Catholic, but National Catholic, which is an offshoot of the Catholic religion, except they don't have a pope. So the Pope in Vatican City doesn't belong to us. It was predominantly Polish and Lithuanians that were National Catholic. Same Mass, same everything. Our Mass was done in Lithuanian, though. So it wasn't done in Rome, Latin or anything like that. Purely in the native tongue.
And in the philosophy after life, what was the position that you learned as a kid?
Same thing. The same as the Roman Catholic, that you die and you have to confession and so forth, and be a good person. But we're all sinners, and you have to absolve yourself of your sins so you can go on to heaven.
To heaven, okay.
Yeah, all of that. The same Catholic religion, the same books that the Roman Catholics would have. We had. So
after your dad died, and you talked to the priest, and it was not satisfying what he said to you. It was suspicious.
Well, it made no sense. It's like if you want me to believe in him, well, give me some proof. If you don't give me some proof, then why can't we just be a random chance of the cosmos? So for me to think there's something beyond this is ridiculous, because you can't give me one shred of evidence that I should believe in that. There was not one piece that he could show me or point to me. Well, there's nothing there. It's like, well, I'm done. I'm just so done. I'll sleep on Sunday mornings.
What about your mom and anybody else in your family relative to how strong they felt about the religion and what
they always kept up their contact with the church. Now I don't know if I couldn't call them devout Catholics in any way. Neither my aunt nor my mother. But more like it was like a congregation, like a friends that go because it was kind of a gathering. That go, that say it, but we never said grace. We never had anything that dealt with religion other than Sunday morning. There was nothing. I never went to Sunday school. I never did anything like that. So we were very, very kind of modest. Even in our religious aspects, we were very modest in it. But then when my father died, it was just, I completely gave up on it.
the family did as well then.
No, well, the church itself dwindled and
Oh, right.
dwindled and dwindled
Right.
because there aren't many national Catholics any longer. So when my aunt passed on, I had to find a priest from Connecticut to come up and officiate at her funeral. So because it's that, far removed from the mainstream now.
So after that, and this is also with the idea that your dad had passed and you were 13 and obviously you were close to him and so forth. After that, you had no religion or you had no spiritual sort of rudder?
Nothing at all. Nothing. No belief whatsoever. Nothing. I was absolutely convinced that it is what it is. We die, we turn to dust, and off we go. It was just so matter of fact.
So from that period till later, let's say you get into your young 20s or when you...
Yeah, when I got married, I remember I got married in a Roman Catholic church, and the priest asked me, will you confirm? I go, yeah. And which I was confirmed National Catholic, not Roman Catholic, but I wasn't going to offer that up. And he asked me some questions. I go, yeah. And it's like, because I'm looking at him, and I just have literally no respect. It's like, okay, we'll get married in a church, makes you happy. It's kind of the tradition. This guy in a robe, I mean, he's seen his days, and that was kind of how I looked at him, almost with disdain. That it's like you don't have the common sense to know that there's nothing beyond this, So.
So it sounds as though that after that event, your dad's death, and the priest that didn't deliver any value and your thoughts about it sounds like you were in kind of a limbo, at least in terms of religion and spirituality.
I don't know. No, I was there. I was pretty much set in my ways. I was, if you want to call, if people have devout Catholics, I was a devout atheist. There's absolutely no one that could come into my life in any way that would tell me that there's anything about religion other than a business. So I was absolutely convinced of it. The reason you buy fish on Fridays is because the boats would dock on Wednesdays. You buy it on Thursdays. You eat fish on Fridays, or the Pope had his fishing fleet. It was purely a business.
So what did you think when people passed? What happened?
You just turn to dust. You end it. That was the end of the day. No different than we squash a mosquito. The same as with our life being extinguished in the cosmos. I mean, we just end. When you swat a fly, do you think of his afterlife? No, and there was the same kind of aspect that I had, is that in the scheme of things, that we were so minute that we were like the mosquito, and we would cease to exist, and that was the end of it.
So you're a younger adult, and you're married now, and you're probably thinking about families and the like. Did that change at all? And secondly, did you have...
No, I had arguments with my father-in-law, because he wanted to have my children baptized and all that. I had no religion, and I said, I'm not going to impose any religion upon my kids, because I have no religion. He goes, my kids are going to be brought up Christian. I go, great, but they're not your kids. So we had a huge falling out. My daughter, doesn't really have a religion. And I felt so, it was really something to me. It was, I'm not going to thrust them into a business proposition. Because to me, the reason I want to indoctrinate into that is to create an income stream for the church. It had nothing to do about religion. It was creating parishioners who were going to put money in a till to make sure that this device can keep on churning out and pumping in money. Just a little money machine. And I was just so dead against it. It was just like, absolutely not. What if she wants to be a Buddhist? Is what I would always tell the guy. Like, what if she wants to be a Buddhist? And I've confirmed her. I've just ruined her aspects and her aspirations of becoming a Buddhist. I'm not. She's going to find her own way. Whatever religion she finds that finds her, I'm happy with it. But I will not inflict someone with religion.
How about how they feel after they pass, or how somebody passes, your kids growing up? What I'm wondering is, were there any influences during that period that would have even brought up the idea, despite the fact, as you said, it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust? Is there any chance that something may have crept in where you might have been receptive to the idea of an afterlife?
Oh, no. Come on.
So
that was just... And you can see my attitude. I mean, you can see the feeling that I have and the passion for it. It's just, it drove me insane.
So something really huge changed your opinion.
Right, and you can tell from how I'm talking to you that it's
right.
bringing me back in time to the emotions I had back then. Was just, it's such a cop-out that you're looking at these other things as opposed to looking in yourself. You're looking at other ways of solving your woes as to you solving your woes.
So how can you change that position so dramatically as you did. I mean, can you tell us about what happened really?
I mean, I don't. So the changing of the position was over years. It wasn't through anything other than this house. There's no other place I ever imagined that, other than where I am right now, that would have changed my views and my beliefs. There's just no other place.
So what triggered it?
What triggered my being here?
No, what triggered your change of view?
Well, that's a very complex answer.
Right. Well,
that's a very complex
what we want
answer.
to dig into. It's layers. That's what we'd like to talk about.
Right. So the first thing is, the question is, how did I get here? So that's even when you think, all my life, since I was a little kid, I'd always say I want to live in a big house on a river that leads to the ocean. Never want to live on the ocean. Want to live in a big house on a river that leads to the ocean. I said that ever since I can remember. Don't know why I said it, but I've always said that. And I was whitewater rafting back in 1999.
How old were you when you were doing that?
What, whitewater in 1999?
Yeah.
How old was I in 1999?
Quick check.
Born in 1964. So what would that have been? I would have been 36, 35.
Okay.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So 1999 in whitewater rafting, July or whatever it is, we were up on Lake Umbagog. And this was my second time. I did it in 1988, went back up for 1999. Whitewater rafting, coming down the rapids, very near the end of the rapid ride. So almost over. We're at the last kind of like really set of rapids, and I'm at the back of the boat. And all of a sudden, I go out of the boat. I don't know why I went out of the boat, but all of a sudden I'm out of the boat. The water wasn't that deep. My friends are trying to pull me out of the water. I'm not understanding that they're actually standing on my chest. So it was pretty shallow water that we were in. You think the rapids are deep and all that. Really weren't that deep. So they're literally standing on my chest as my head's getting pounded on the rocks. And all I can do is I'm trying to get them off of me because they're going to drown me. So I finally got my hands underwater where they couldn't reach me. The raft goes down, and I follow the raft down and get back in the boat. And we dock the rafts. And there's kind of like a pontoon boat that brings us back to the campsite. And on that, and all of a sudden I'm feeling really wheezy and just completely tired. I just don't feel right. And I'm at the campsite about an hour later, start feeling unbelievably nauseous. And I'm running off into the woods, puking my guts out, just sick as a dog. And maybe an hour after that, so probably about 2 hours after the raft ride, we're sitting there, it's dark, I got the campfire going, and I'm feeling horrible. All of a sudden, everyone disappears. I mean, literally. And all I can see is the glow of the fire. So I lost my eyesight. And they go get the guy who runs the campsite. They had a kind of a medical kind of person on staff. He looks at me and says, "Oh my God, he got a concussion. What happened to him?" Go to the hospital. We went to the hospital in Colebrook, New Hampshire, which isn't open 24 hours. So you have to like hit the bell or whatever it is, a call. The guy comes, lets us in. And that was like a half an hour away. So we drive. He looks at me and he goes, what can you see? Can you see the eye chart? And I go, "Where is it?" And he's looking. He says, "Okay, can you read?" And all I could see is the blur of the big E. Everything else was just washed out. And he says, "Okay, you have a massive concussion. Nothing I can do for you up here. You got to go back down." That was on a Saturday. So my friends bring me back to the campsite. He tells them to wake me up like every 2 hours, and ask him questions, make sure he's still lucid, which they did. They kept on waking me up, and I hated that, but because it was the only time I didn't feel sick. So they keep on waking me up. In the morning, one of my friends drives me back. When I get back in the cell phone range, I call my wife, tell her we're coming home, we got hurt. She calls the doctor. The doctor says, "Okay, we're gonna, they tell her what's going on." She says, "Well, if it's like that," she talks to the doc up there. "Let's get you a CAT scan." So I go home. We're waiting for my appointment for the CAT scan. I'm sitting at my house after my friend drops me off. I look at my wife, and I said, "Read me the newspaper." And I can't see. I mean, literally, I can't see. She's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Read me the want ads from the newspaper." While we're waiting.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I'm just sitting there and I go, "Read me," and it wasn't like I'm watching TV. It's like, "Okay, read me the want ads." And she goes, "What section?" And I go, "Read me the real estate section." And she goes, "What?" And she's like, really, she just has no idea what I'm talking about or anything like that. And I don't know. I'm just telling her to read me the want ads from the newspaper.
Is anybody realizing you almost drowned?
Yeah. Oh no. I was like in bad shape.
It's a scary.
Yeah, I was in bad shape. So I didn't look too bad, but you could see. I mean, I couldn't see. I mean, I wasn't I wasn't doing well, and I'm telling her read the want ads, and she goes, "Oh, here's one. Own a piece of history, the Governor's Mansion, Hampton Falls, New Hampshire." I go, after my CAT scan, I want to go see it, and so we go for my CAT scan.
Did you know the area and the place?
No, I'd never been here.
Okay.
Never been in this area. I had no idea where Hampton Falls was.
So it didn't necessarily, it wasn't the river to the sea.
No, I had no idea what I was walking into. I just knew I wanted to go see that house. We had no desire to buy a house. So nothing. We had a house, it was completely done. No desire to move, no discussion to move, no nothing. And here I am getting hit. So we can't see the house on a Sunday. I called my friend who's a real estate agent. He makes an appointment for us on Monday after I go to the neurologist at Exeter. So after that appointment, I come here and get out of the car, and she has to walk me around because I've lost my eyesight. And we're greeted at the front door. I walk through the front door, and I said to her, I go, is there a woman at the end of the staircase, like on the baluster? I said, is she holding a light up in the air? And she goes, yeah. I said, we have to buy this house. As soon as I walked through the door, that was my question. And she's like, what do you mean? I go, we have to buy this house.
So where did that come from?
I have no idea.
So you just had a vision of...
I just knew, walking through the door, I knew that even though I'm here, I can't see. I mean, everything's just a blur if I was open my eyes on the water. And I'm asking her, and she says, yeah. And I go, we have to buy it. And she's like, you're crazy and what have you. My mother cried when I told her I wanted to buy the house. So we
Why'd
had
she cry?
Oh, because it needed a tremendous amount of work.
Oh.
My God, it hadn't been worked on for literally 120 years. And it was just all overgrown, needed everything in the world.
Did she say anything to you in addition to crying about the project?
Oh, she said I was nuts. I mean, everyone thought I was just insane to take on a project like that.
Were they blaming it on the concussion?
No, they just thought I just lost it. And I was just like, no, I have to buy this house. If you don't want to come live, fine. But I'm buying this house. I have to be here and buy this house. And I made an offer on it. It got accepted by Friday. And after I made the offer and it got accepted, other people were trying to buy this house. And people, even up until my closing, kept on offering me all kinds of money to walk away from the house. And I had no desire. It didn't matter. And someone actually came up with $250,000 for me to walk away. We want to buy your purchase and sale. It's like, no, I have no desire. This is my home. I'm supposed to be here. It doesn't matter how much you give me. I don't want to buy the house. I'm not going to sell the house. It's my house. And actually those people, for the next 3 years in a row, had a real estate agent call me and see if I wanted to sell. Then the final phone call was when they said, you've done a lot. We bought another house is what the story was. The husband and wife go buy something else. She doesn't want the other house. She wants to buy this house. And he goes, whatever your price is, we can work with you and we'll get there. My wife really wants this house. My comment was, I said, the only time it's going to be for sale is when you see me in the obituaries, you know it's for sale. I said, but up until then, you don't have to waste money on a phone call because it's not for sale. I go, it's really that simple. I go, this is my home. This is where I'm going to die. I go, the obituaries is the ad for sale. I go, it's just that clear. And
how were you feeling physically during the period of buying it and after you bought it?
Well, it was under agreement for a year because I ended up with 40 acres. There was a contractor who bought 80 acres.
And your eyesight and your head?
My eyesight cleared up, except, and it was month and a half, 2 months before I had my vision back, but I had astigmatism because of the pressure in my brain. So I wore glasses. And I'd always have these glasses on, which I don't have glasses right now. So I had 2100 vision in my right eye. So, which if you could picture that, that's
as a result of
the concussion. And a year later, I'm playing racquetball. And this guy walks on the court I've never seen before, and I was an A player in racquetball. Guy walks on the court, never saw him before at the club at all. He goes, you want to hit it around? I'm like, sure. And I'm warming up for the A-League, so I'm thinking the guy's a good player. I don't put my goggles on because we're just going to warm up. The first hit, he slices the ball directly into my right eye. No bone. It was 100% impact right on my eyeball. So he blew out my eye. My retina was hanging on by a few points. I lost the complete sight because of all the blood in the eye. So when my eye healed, or I should say, I went to the optometrist who'd been dealing with me, who got me the glasses to begin with, who was in Haverhill. I go back, and I can't see out of my glasses anymore. So I'm thinking my eyes are really bad because now I can't see anything out of my right eye. It's absolutely worthless. It's all fuzzy and what have you. So he's got me in the little machine. Can you see now? No. Can you see now? No. Can you see now? Yeah. Perfect. How bad is it? He goes, you have 20/20 vision again. I can't explain it. So I went from wearing the Coke bottle glass to having my eye back.
You described that guy. Remember you told me too what he looked like if you ever saw him before, if you ever saw him again, and how he hit that ball.
It was just, I mean, this guy comes into the court, and literally he goes, eh. So he had no idea how to play racquetball, and he's in the A League, which is obviously the best league, and it was literally, he's at point blank range to me, first hit, right in the eye, walks away, done. And I'm done. And I'm telling, and it was probably 6 weeks to 2 months that I had, I mean, like literally almost no vision. And it would be like, when it started healing, it was like if you put a quarter of your eye and just had the peripheral vision, that's what I ended up with, but all amber, because I was looking through blood. And it was just, I'm thinking, oh my God, horrible. And then that was just the weirdest thing to have my eye back.
So you almost drowned. You got this house of your dreams and everybody else wants it after the fact and you're not going to give it up. Your eyesight comes back miraculously because of some stranger. How are you feeling about this point?
I couldn't even explain that guy. I mean, it was just, I wanted to kill him when he hit me in the eye and ran away. And then it was just like the best thing he ever did for me. But literally never saw him again. Never saw him before, never saw him again. That was it.
But how are you feeling about this house? You now have come to this house and your mother didn't want you to buy it and everybody wants it now.
Oh, no one wanted me to buy it.
What happens now? And the reason I asked about your mood, because you're coming out, concussions don't evaporate, and you're coming out of a heavy experience, a lot of heavy experiences.
Well, I had migraines too. That concussion triggered migraines, of which I still get. I get like 2 to 3 migraines a year, which are completely debilitating. So it'll just, for whatever reason, it'll hit me, and then I can't even function. I've got to sleep it off for 24 hours. But I don't take any medicines or what have you. And that was triggered solely because of that concussion.
Are you feeling lucky though, and happy in any of this period right now? That's what I'm getting at, because basically we want to know what happened.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I felt lucky. I kind of all took it in stride. I never even put that together as, geez, I'm kind of lucky. I mean, to me, it was just, I'm supposed to be here. It was kind of like I'm settling into it, not even knowing any of that. It was just another day at the park. So I'm here, just thinking about it, and just another day. But it was just the fact that I'm home. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm home.
So you found the home. Can you sort of describe to us sort of what you went through in the beginning? I mean, how you reacted to it?
At the beginning, I had contractors for the first couple months, and fired the contractors because what I learned was no one cares about something they're building unless it's for themselves. So the contractors were absolutely horrific, and I would never have a contractor again. It's going to be myself or someone who's close to me that I've kind of handpicked. But I would never hire a general contractor to oversee any kind of project because they're in there to turn out money and move on to the next project. And that's what I experienced coming here. And it's been 13 years now from the start to the beginning. And it's been slow, but it's been my vision, and everything is done without an option of speed, but for the best quality.
Did it meet your expectations for what you bought in the beginning? Like how did you find the house as you sort of took over things?
Oh my God, it was one thing after the next. I mean, just opening, I'd open up a wall, I'd take on a certain project. My first project was the windmill. And I don't know why, and this actually is an interesting story. I go to the windmill, and I'm absolutely convinced, don't ask me why, I still don't believe in ghosts. But I'm convinced someone is buried in the windmill. I have no explanation for that. I'm convinced someone is in there. I take out the back window, which was a huge back window. I buy a tractor, and I'm in there with a backhoe digging up the floor.
This is right after you bought the place?
This is right after I bought the place. I'm in there. It's like, there's a dead body here. I know there's someone buried in this floor. I know they're here. I'll find them. And I don't know why. I'm still not believing in ghosts. I just think someone's buried in the floor. And I'm in there digging, and it's like, I know he's here, I know it's a guy, I know he's here, and digging, can't find him. But I dug out that floor. I mean, that was, I still can't explain it, but I was obsessed with fixing that windmill first. So my house kind of took second place to fixing that windmill. And I made, in my mind, it's like, okay, I need a place to set up shop, to make materials for the house and what have you. I've got to fix that first. And when I bought the house, the windmill, I'm taking a tour of the property. Literally, again, I can't really see. I fell right through the floors. I went right to the floor joist because it was in such disrepair. The windows were broken out from 100 years of rain and what have you, and I had to tackle that project first. But I was absolutely convinced that someone was buried in that floor. There's no one who could tell me otherwise. I know they're there. I know they're there.
Any evidence?
I got nothing. Didn't get in anything. But I
No
was
physical evidence.
No physical evidence.
No vibes. No.
Oh, I was convinced. I mean, if someone said this, I was convinced. I would have testified that there's someone down there. They're absolutely here. I don't know why. The thought of the supernatural didn't even occur. It was just that I knew someone was buried below the floor.
Maybe at a crime scene.
Yeah, it was just I know. I mean, it was just I know someone's there.
So you tackled the windmill first.
I tackled the windmill project first, which was a huge project because I literally ripped the structure down in the inside, peeled it all back, took every bit out. I took out 3 pickup truck beds of just animal kind of like nesting material and dead carcasses and what have you that had gone up and kind of lived in the place. And it was just I'm throwing it out the window in my pickup truck and I'm dumping it in the field. And but it was 3 pickup truck loads of just stuff. And then I took up every floorboard. You could look from the bottom of the windmill all the way up to the 4th floor and see the ceiling there. And I started from the 4th floor down in reconstructing that building. And I sandblasted the entire thing, and then we just came down as we worked.
So you got some good momentum in terms of getting that done. And then what happened next, or what happens next in terms of the property and how you're feeling about the purchase still? You're feeling?
Oh no, there's no question. I'm supposed to be here, and some days it just became overwhelming, and you don't know what project to tackle next. And it was just myself, and there was a guy that I hired. And he'd help me. We'd start on certain projects. I'd work during the night. And, then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 years after the fact, I hired a couple college kids to kind of help me out. And then from there, I kept on hiring the college kids. Can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? And we had some momentum there. And I was very fortunate with getting good college kids. So very
You're working
lucky
on the house at this point.
Working on the house.
Okay. So
Yeah, working on
what's
the house.
happening? What you do here, and what did you find? Did you find anything? Did you have the same feeling that you had that
No.
something was buried here? Or?
No, I didn't have the same feeling at all. I'm still my focus, but literally, even today, I still feel that something's in that windmill. But my windmill was kind of my base of operations initially. I worked from there, and I remember one of my first experiences that I couldn't explain was when I had one of the first guys who worked for me. His name was Didier, and he worked at an art center, and he worked for me as well. And we're out there making pieces of wood and so forth, and planing pieces of the windmill to get back together. And we look out the window, and we see these little orbs.
What's an orb?
Orb is like it was like a little red light. And
in the daytime, or
yeah, it was like in the evening, because when I'd be doing my insurance business during the day, working at night. So it was in the evening. We're in there planing wood, and we'd see these little red lights, like 3, 4 of them, out the window, and then we'd turn, and they were cognizant, and they'd fly away. And I'd look at him, he'd look at me, and he goes, "You saw it, right?" I go, "Yeah." And I mean, I'm still the supernatural wasn't it. It's like, what is that? I'm not thinking it's any spirit kind of activity. That's not even coming into play at this point. This is early on. And it's like, what is that? But they were literally, thinking back on it, these things were cognizant of when we would look, and they would fly away. And he saw it, I saw it, and it's just like...
How often did you see them? I mean,
we saw it about 4 or 5 times.
Really? And they look like, how big are they? I mean,
about the size of a quarter.
Right, are they bright? Or
They were bright. They were like red. These were bright red, and they would be stationary. And they'd be kind of like just hovering and watching us, and then we'd see them, and for some reason you kind of like drawn to them, and you just look, and when we'd both have, for however reason, would turn it simultaneously, and they would dart off. So we'd never get a straight on look at them, but we would both see them clearly out of the corner of our eye. So it's like, okay, they know we're there, and I'm thinking, is it a bug? What is that thing? And looking back on it, there's no way it was a bug.
So how did you guys figure it out? What did you end up? What conclusion did you come to after you've seen it a few times? I mean,
we were just neither one of us were. I mean, he didn't believe in spirits. I didn't believe in spirits, And the fact that it could have been some kind of supernatural entity didn't even come into play. And then, but when you think of things in retrospect, that to me now, it was something from some kind of supernatural kind of event that occurred, and that was the last thing in our thoughts though. We never thought that it was any kind of anything from beyond or anything from what we couldn't see or anything. We thought there'd be some kind of logical explanation for it. And
Were you curious or scared?
but they were like cognizant. We'd talk about it. It's like, boy, they know we're watching them and what have you. But I'm not thinking it's a spirit. I'm thinking it's a bug or something. But I didn't give it much thought because I'm still ingrained in being I still have my atheist mentality coming.
But it's still a line in the sand in a sense. You think back on it, and you've seen something here at this house
that I couldn't
after you had
explain.
to buy- Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, that I could not explain. And I look back on it now, saying, well, I mean, the way it reacted and the way what it is definitely that's something of supernatural origin, and I know that now. Back then, it would be there's an explanation for that, and I just don't know what it is. It's certainly not supernatural.
So that wasn't something to get you out looking for other things necessarily.
No. That was something that's just
So
like,
what
well, that's
happened?
interesting, and it's like, okay, let's get back to plain and wood. I was very focused on the reconstruction of the property. That was kind of like a humorous sideline, but it wasn't anything to really take me off the mark.
So what happened next, and where?
What happened next?
Really, in terms of your project, how's it going along, and did you?
The house is going along, and we're doing a variety of projects. So from when the windmill, basically the main structure of the windmill gets rehabbed, and it becomes into like a workshop. From there, we start working on the house, and I would start working on the exterior of the house. And the house, when I bought it, had cedar shakes all over it, and needed a lot of help. And I peeled the entire house, right from top to bottom on the outside, peeled it off, peeled every cedar shake off the house, and really wanted to get a look at it. So that was project number one. Project, actually simultaneously, as I had the contractors here, I'd be working here on the weekends, I tackled the attic, because the attic needed to have insulation and need to be fixed. We had some water leaks up there. I want to get at the water leaks so I can see what's up with the roof. So the roofers can't really repair a roof. Guessing from the outside, we need to get in. So I took out 12.5 tons of material. And the house was in such disrepair, I remember stopping at 100 dead squirrels. And it was just, and they were little puffy things, and they were all over the place. I pulled down a wall, these squirrels would fall out. Another wall, these squirrels would fall out. All kinds of rodents, dead bats by the hundreds. Bats like you couldn't believe. They were all up inside those walls, and they were just sitting there with a crowbar, just ramming it through the walls, pulling it down, pulling it down, pulling it down. And then I had a chute and a big dumpster, and I'm just shoveling it out the window. But it was 12.5 tons of stuff that I took out. So,
You still like the house at this point?
oh yeah, no, I'm convinced. I love the house, and it's really.
I
And
mean,
before I
that
came
point.
here, I was never mechanical in any way. But all of a sudden, I became mechanical. I don't know how. I don't know how I knew to do certain things, how to tackle things in a certain order. I just started doing things. All of a sudden a thought would come to me, okay, I gotta go over there. And sometimes if I couldn't see the end of my project, I'd only go so far, and it would drive Michelle insane because I didn't know how to finish it. It's just like, I can't, I don't know how, I gotta move on to something else. And she goes, you don't finish anything. It's because I couldn't, because I didn't know how to end it. So, and now it's kind of come together, but back then I only had the information to take it so far. And it drove her insane because we had a whole bunch of half-started projects, three-quarter started projects that were kind of waiting for that finishing touch. Problem is I didn't see the finishing touch, and I was afraid to make a mistake, and I couldn't take it any further.
Where are you year-wise? Are you, is this the 5th year of 10, 12
No,
years?
probably so 1990. So I moved into 2000. I had the contractors from June of 2000 through September of 2000. So only a couple months with the contractors. I confronted the contractor. He's charging me for time on a machine that I didn't even use, what have you. So he's a real crook. And from there, I really started tackling everything. And probably until 2000, and only a few months after that is when this guy Didier, who came from the Art Center, started working for me. And he worked for me every day, just on basically destruction of the property. And I had a carriage house I had to pull down. He'd work on destruction of that. helped me with the pulling off of the outside of the building. He came after the attic. He helped me insulate the attic. There was kind of a progression and helped me in the windmill. So there'd be different projects at different times that if I'm working during the day, I keep him busy on this, on that. And part of it was I wanted to save as much. If there's any usable material in the house, I wanted to save it. And I want to reuse it someplace else. So I didn't want to be buying material someplace. I wanted whatever I could save with the house to stay with the house. I didn't want to make the house a new house. I wanted to keep the old house, all that makes the old house, and just freshen it up and give it new life.
So the vision is there, the passion's still there. I mean, you're really excited about it. You've got a lot of energy into it. So what are the next sort of steps? You finish the house. You encounter anything in the house that disappointed you, or?
No. Oh my God. So we're working on the house little by little. The kitchen was an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. We came here, and the man who owned it was a mechanical engineer, which you'd think that you'd have, a good furnace, good water system, and so forth. Didn't have any of that. He had a heating unit in the kitchen, which was in a cabinet, that would go on if you ran the dishwasher. Okay, so we'd have heat in the kitchen only if she was washing dishes. Okay, which was when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, that's very frugal, and he had a wood stove. So it's like, oh, I'm not the kind of guy, I don't want to be having a wood stove, and that's how he heated it. And I remember when I moved here, he's walking me around the house, and he's telling me that it cost him $600 a year to heat the house. And it's like, wow, that's pretty good. Well, what he didn't say is he only heats 3 rooms. Okay? I didn't say. So we have baseboard heating in all the rooms. It never went back downstairs. The pipes were left open. They never went back down. So you see the units on the walls, you just assume that there's actually water running through them. I didn't ask that. Well, is it all done? So there'd be some points where he started to put the baseboard in and said, how do I get back down? How do I get, and it would just end. It would just end. And it was quite an experience of opening up walls to get the heating down there. And I learned to solder with the best of them, because in the wintertime, after I finished the heating system, we had all kinds of cold air coming through. And on a cold day, what would happen? The house would get up to temperature, the water would stop, and then all of a sudden, where that cold pocket is, because I have air coming from the outside, my pipes would freeze. And I would end up with no heat, and I would end up with broken pipes like you couldn't believe. And I could solder to beat the band. I mean, I learned to solder. I never knew how to solder before, but I can solder like a pro now. Because it was years of fixing those.
This is about year 4, year 5?
Yeah, probably. Well, the soldering, yes, probably coming in. I put heat in the house as I moved in. So now we're probably at the end of year 1, where I'm getting the cold pockets. I'm going through the first real winter, and we're having that kind of stuff happen.
And you have beyond the migraines, you have no repercussions from the concussion? You're over that?
I'm over the concussion. No issue with that.
A lot of energy.
My eyesight comes back in 2002, which is good. So I still have my Coke bottle glass on. But we're kind of moving along. Every day something's changing. There's something I'm doing. Something's happening in the house. Something's changing. And then comes the point where we open up the kitchen. So it's like, okay, I've got to fix the kitchen. So I start gutting it. Right after Thanksgiving, we start gutting it. And little by little. So it's just taking it out little by little by little. And my floor in my kitchen had a big whip in it. It was 6-inch divot because the house had settled. So I'm gutting I take up the floor, and every day I go down the basement, and I have jacks down the basement, and I crank it just a little to get the floor up. And I crank it again to get the floor up. And that was probably about a 4-month process. And it's like, okay, my floor's up, let me take out the walls. I take out one of the kitchen walls that's facing my driveway, which has 2 roofs, or 3 roofs pointing at it. There was nothing left of it. It was just hanging there. And I remember opening it up, and that was in February. And literally the wall is gone. I mean, I open up the wall, there's nothing. There are no studs, there's no sill, there's no nothing. It is mush. It's mush. And it was like, oh my God, what have I gotten into? And it was just, I don't know what to do. And it's in February. And I remember Michelle, she's cooking in the dining room. We have a little toaster oven. My mother's in there. My aunt's in there at this point in time. We're cooking in the dining room. And little by little, I'm fixing that wall and what have you. So It was a road to hoe. It was a
Everybody's happy though, you're making progress.
We're making, little by little, we're making progress. Yeah, little by little. It's little baby steps. So we have heat in the kitchen because I put a heated floor in, so that's heating up the kitchen. But still, I've got an open wall that I just kind of like had band-aided, and I've got blue tops over it to keep most of the cold out. And we're working on trying to get that done. But it was the stupidest thing to do in February. But I never thought that I was going to encounter what I encountered. Because literally, when I opened up the wall, there was nothing left. Well, actually, one thing I do want to touch upon is when I bought the house, so we're going to the closing, and we meet the family here. Actually, no, back up even before that. So I've already bought the house. We come back and we're getting friendly with the family.
The family
that sold me the house, and we're getting friendly with them, speaking with them. And I remember asking the husband, "Is the house haunted?" And he goes, "No." And he's like, he's making a joke.
Why did you ask him that?
Because it would be great, because the house looks like a haunted house. And that's what I said. I go, geez, that's a shame, because I would love to live in a haunted house. And he says, no. And I go, well, it looks like a haunted house. And I'm making a joke about it. And I go, that's a shame. So, and he doesn't tell me anything, okay? He doesn't tell me anything, makes a big joke out of it. So we buy the house. This is after the closing now. A year has passed. We became friendly with them. We're moving out, we're moving in. They're moving out. And the wife comes up to me and she says, "Here, this is for you." And I go, "What's that?" She goes, "These are my notes I kept on Sarah." And I'm like, "Okay, what?" And she's saying, "Okay, this is what," and she shows me pictures and notes. She goes, "This is where Sarah moved the candlesticks." And she starts telling me all these ghost stories. And I'm like, okay, this guy tells me the house is unhaunted. Now this woman wants to have me keep up her diary of all these events.
Who's Sarah?
Sarah is the woman who built the house. And it was a very perplexing event, because he's telling me no, she's telling me yes. She's giving me, dates and documentation of when these events occurred. And I'm like, and I'm an atheist, so it's like, you're whacked. I mean, that's a good thing he kept you away from me, because, might have blown the deal. And it was just a weird kind of experience and she was just giving it to me matter of factly. Like, here you go, this is for you, keep it up.
What was in the thing that she gave you?
She gave me pictures, notes, this is where Sarah moved the candlesticks. I remember it was one of them.
What did she mean, move the candlesticks?
So Sarah, the ghost of the house, Sarah, has and this happened to us when we first moved in, she has an affinity for tapered candles. So the woman would be candles around, and the candles would disappear. And when we first moved in, my wife had candles in the dining room. And she'd go, "Where are the candles?" And I go, they're in the dining room. She goes, "You took them." I go, "I didn't take anything." And she would accuse me on numerous occasions of taking these candles out of candlesticks. And I never touched a one. And the kids didn't do it. They didn't know the stories. My children are very young. They wouldn't be taking the candles. And she's saying, "Where are they gone?" And I go, "Come on." And I go, "No, you're kidding me." And I'm thinking she's playing a joke on me. And it wasn't. These candlesticks, literally, they're gone. And there's going to be some place in this house where I'm going to find a stash of candlesticks someday.
And what else? What are the other Sarah comments? Anything like that?
But at that time, there were none. So since her children and children of the prior families, so a couple families have owned this house since the original Brown family. I've met, I think, almost all of them, all the children, and they'd come up. The first question they ask me is, "What ghost stories you have for us?" First thing they say to me is, "What a great job you're doing. You are so thankful you're taking care of the house. What ghost stories do you have?" That's the second question. Consistently, what stories do you have? Everyone had their own specific stories of the house.
You're still an atheist, though, when she gives you this diary.
Oh my God! I'm like, and I don't know where the whole thing is still. I put it someplace. I have pieces of it that I found, but to me it was just, okay, lady, you're whacked. You need medicine, and thank you very much for that. Now it's my house, go, And it was just a weird kind of experience. They should give me this documentation and say, kind of like, "Here, I'm passing the torch to you to keep the notes." And I didn't regard it with anything other than, okay, she's just a little on in years.
So you don't have the diary anymore, or you?
I have pieces of it that I found, but I'm still missing pieces of it.
But at the time, you didn't cherish it, so you didn't really see it.
That's like, the notes on, a ghost, and it was just like, there's no such thing, and why would I keep something? Your notes on something of, obviously you're not thinking correctly. Yeah, didn't give it any credence whatsoever, not a bit of credence. And now I wish I did, but then just brushed it aside.
And did any of the people that asked you of your own ghost stories, the former kids that lived here, did they share anything new to you beyond what the Sarah story was at the...
Yeah, oh yeah. Everyone who came had their own stories. All of them had their own stories about voices and sounds and footsteps. The one that there was actually a couple that were pretty amazing. Was when the Wright family, the family that I bought her from, they always talked about Sarah the ghost because they'd experienced her for 25 years. And at the dinner table in our dining room, they were telling the story of when they were taunting Sarah. You have no power here, we don't believe in you, what have you. And they have a crystal salad bowl in the middle of the dining room table. And no one's around the salad bowl. They're taunting the ghost, and the salad bowl literally explodes in front of everybody. And each family member, when they visited me separately even, has recounted that same exact story. That was amazing. And then another time, we had the man who didn't believe in ghosts, okay? The guy who says, oh, no, my house isn't haunted. I'm telling him about when he visited, I'm telling him about how my dining room got destroyed, and paintings were thrown around, and my clock's on the other side, my chandelier's taken apart. And he says, well, you know what? I did have an event like that. I had some people who came over. They thought, they were making comments that my house looks haunted. And I said, no, it's not. And all of a sudden, the painting in my office, which is my office now, was thrown off of the wall, which I found very strikingly similar as to what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, can you tell me about that? I said, the cord break? Did the hook come off? He says, no. He says, it just kind of came off the wall. It was thrown on the other side of the room. And he goes, it was really on the other side of the room. And he said it hit some things, toppled over a lamp and what have you. And I go, you didn't want to tell me about that, huh? So it was pretty interesting that all of a sudden we have a similar experience to what I encountered that he encountered specifically as well.
Were any of these stories scary? Or it's almost as if these people recounting them were they were anecdotal almost and not, like somebody's lived
Well,
through.
we didn't feel threatened. I don't think never have I really felt threatened in this house. A few times I felt uneasy, but I don't think I've ever felt threatened. I personally have never felt that to me, it's never been any like an unwanted thing. I feel very welcome in this environment, so I don't feel that at all. I can walk around this house with no lights on, feel very comfortable in it, and I don't feel that I'm under threat in any way. So I think they felt the same thing. The kids, when they taunted the ghost, obviously that'd be, if you were being taunted, you'd kind of lash out as well. So, but most of the time, I think that the energy of the house was kind of welcoming, as opposed to, it might have been frustrating if it was a spirit, because they see the house rotting away beneath them. And what if you were at some place and everything that you live for, and you're here, and this is your life, and kind of your lasting place, and you see it literally rotting away from within inside you, you'd be a little frustrated too. And you're powerless to stop it.
Well, you had vibes about the windmill, and then you had orbs, and then you had the notes and the Sarah story, and then this stuff that at some point.
But still, even that. So those things. So the Sarah story, completely, that didn't even come into play. It's like the ranting of an older woman. Don't even think about it. The orbs. It's got to be something that I can explain. That really didn't do anything for me as far as the supernatural. Even the feelings that someone is buried, which I could never explain. To this day, I can't explain why I firmly believe someone is buried in that floor of that windmill. And I dug that out. I probably dug that down 4 or 5 feet looking for something. And the entire thing around the call of the well and everything. And could not. It was just nothing, and I couldn't find anything. But I was convinced that there was something buried in that floor. And I can't explain it. Have no idea why.
So what's happening is the house takes shape, and you're sort of halfway through the restoration. What's going on?
So every day, things change. Literally every day, something in this house, even to today, something will change with this house on a daily basis. So something will be put up, something will be changed, something will be moved. Something will progress this house to its final form. And, really, we're kind of like marching along probably until my son's probably 7 years old at this point. So he was born in 1998. So 1998. So 2005, thereabouts. Really, probably one of the more pivotal things for me is that really started shaking me up was when I was watching TV with my son in the back. He's asleep. We're in the back, and at this point, I've reconstructed the old tack room of the house to be a family room. He and I are back there watching TV. I go to the bathroom, and like any guy, I pee with the door open. My bathroom's in the center of the house, and all of a sudden, this kid runs past me. And I'm thinking, what's he doing? He's going to bed. I don't even think about it. It's solid. I feel him run up the stairs. My house is shaking.
This is solid, but you mean the weight?
I mean, this is, to me, it's my son. My son just ran past me. I don't think twice about it. My son just ran past me, ran up the stairs, but he ran to the back of the house. And there was an old servant's quarter there, and I had gutted that, and I'm going to redo the bathrooms and redo the back of the house. So there's nothing back there, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And it's like, okay, I want to finish my movie. And I go back, and he's in the chair where I left him, sound asleep. And I'm like, it's like, okay, you somehow, you got around me, and you beat me, and I don't know what you're doing, and I start shaking him. And, I mean, he's only 7 years, if he was trying to play with me, he would have had this little grin in his face that he couldn't stop smiling and what have you. He was dead to the world. And I'm looking at him, it's like, okay. And then I'm looking, it's like, he's in red pajamas. The kid that ran past me had blue pants on and a white shirt. And
this is nighttime?
This is nighttime. This is like 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. And, okay, so this kid, there's no question in my mind that someone ran past me. No, I'm just about the same size as my son. Didn't think twice it wasn't my son, but now he's in different clothes than the kid I saw. And I go up into the back of the house, nothing's there. I'm looking around the entire house. It's like, okay, I can't explain that. To me, there was a solid human being that ran past me, opened the door to the back, shut it, and is no longer in this building. I can't explain that for anything. And actually, even before that, early on, I remember hearing voices in the upstairs hallway. And I would think it was Michelle and this guy Didier that worked for me at the time having a conversation up there. And I'm like, what the hell could they be talking about? And I couldn't quite make out what they were talking about, so I'd come out of my office and the conversation would stop. And that might be 5, 6 times anyway. And they would always be in some other part of the house. There would be no one up in that hallway. Ever. So I heard these, and I'm thinking it must be an echo, it must be something, but it was something that continually happened. These voices would come from the upstairs hallway, and I'd hear them, but I never knew what they were talking. There was a man and a woman having a conversation. I have no idea what it was, but I remember distinctly having these things done. And there was no question it was not either one of them. So that kind of led into it. So at this point, the little kid comes past me, and it's like, okay, that's right there. And I can't explain it. I know there's no little kid in my house. And I'm like, I don't get it. I'm still not believing in ghosts or spirits or anything like that. But I don't have an answer for it.
So what do you do? Who do you talk to?
I don't have an answer. I don't talk to anybody about it. I might have told a few people about this is a weird thing and I don't know what it is. But to me, it's like a ghost. It's not a ghost. And one night I'm working, and this is only maybe a month later or what have you, and I'm working at my desk, and someone walks down the main staircase of the house here, walks through to the other hallway in front of my office. I see the doorway move between the two hallways. It moves on its own, like someone's walking by, they brush it. My wife's office door opens, and the door from my office to her office moves. So there's someone walking by. I'm not thinking about it. I can't see them. It's darkness over there. I saw the door move and what have you. Heard the footsteps. Okay, I'm thinking my daughter's, gone in there to print something off, what have you. A minute goes by. The photocopier goes off. And it's a printer as well. That goes off. It's like, okay, so someone's definitely in that room. No question. And a minute goes by. It's like, I'm like looking now. I'm paying attention. And nothing's going on in there. And I yell. I nickname my wife Lil. So I go, Lil! No answer. It's like, Lil! I go, Al! Because my daughter's name is Allie. No answer. And go in there. No one's there. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I go upstairs, check my son's room, open up. He's dead asleep. Go to my daughter's room. She's dead asleep. My wife, dead asleep. And the 2 dogs are in with her. It's like, okay, that was over the top. So I remember, I'm trying to think when that was.
Have the dogs ever reacted to something
I have one dog, I have a Bichon, that won't go in the basement, nor will he go in the back room. We have a back room that we'll talk about in a little bit. And we have, which is the only place that I feel uneasy in the house. Then we have a back staircase that comes off of the kitchen. The Bichon won't go down the basement, he won't go in the back room, and he won't go down the back staircase. The Papillon, he's just a little happy dog, and he goes everywhere. But the Bichon, you can't get him down that staircase, you can't get him in that back room, and he would die before he goes in the basement. So he's absolutely, so those are territory, if even if I had bone or meat, it doesn't matter, he will not transverse those stairs for anything.
How were you feeling as these things sort of pop up?
Well, it's the all of a sudden these things are happening that I cannot explain, and I'm thinking, you look around, you think, okay, it's someone, and these events occur, and I don't have a rational explanation, and I know I'm not losing my mind, and so this is 1995. I'm trying to think when I had my hip surgery. Whenever I had my hip surgery, like 1998 probably, and I was in 1997, could be 97, and that's probably the most pivotal point. So I had time on my hands, and that's really when it really started to really kind of manifest itself.
Sorry, 1997 or 2007?
2007. So yes, about 5 years ago, I had my hip done. And
what started to manifest itself? You started to think about this?
I started really getting someplace because it really started to kind of like gel. And that was right around the time I had my first medium come here. And we had brought in some paranormal teams. So I have my...
How did you find them? And
Actually, 1990, it was probably 1996 that I put a knife through my hand. So I'm working on the house, and I would cook lunch for the college kids that work for me. And I'm working on the windmill. I'm scraping it off to try to kind of spruce up the windmill. I'm getting all the old paint off and what have you. I come down. I'm really doing good. I'm making great progress in the windmill. I go and I'm in the kitchen, and I'm trying to open up frozen hamburger patties. I grab the biggest knife in the kitchen and hold the hamburger patties and take the knife, and I'm going to just snap it to open up the patties. Well, it didn't work that way. So it didn't want to come, so I forced it a little, and I ended up driving the knife through my hand. I severed the main artery, and I remember thinking to myself, the only thought in my mind was, oh my God, I'm going to stain the grout in my floor. So I'm pumping my blood into the kitchen sink. And that's all I could think of was like, oh my God, I'm going to stain the grout. And I remember seeing, it was like Spider-Man, that the blood was like just pumping out. I'm just pumping the blood out of my body. And one of the guys who works for me comes, he sees me, and I'm like, it's like, oh shit, I got to go to the hospital. And I'm covered in blood. And I'm trying to think where I'm going with this. Takes me to the hospital. I come back. They can't do anything for me after they stop me. And there's a trail of blood in the hospital. So when I walk in there, I'm bleeding profusely. They get me into the triage room. Then they say, okay, we got to get you down the hall. And I'm literally bleeding all over the place. My wife was at the beach with her friends. She comes. She follows the trail of blood in the hospital to my room where they put me because I was bleeding so badly. And they look at my hand, can't do anything for you, you need a microsurgeon. And they get my hand taken care of. And I had basically a lot of downtime. And I remember watching the guys and kind of getting more involved in the process of my house. This was during the summertime, where we had all the college kids. And some of those kids had their own personal experiences. But I never knew about them because I never had time to really talk with them. And I'm still like, they're telling me stories of what they would have, and it's like, you know.
Like what? Similar to what you've seen before?
Kind of just little things that they couldn't explain. And it's just, and I can't even recall the stories, but a couple of kids related things to me and, you know, asked me if the house was haunted and what have you, and asked me these questions. And I'm like, nah, you know, I'm still not there, but I'm like, why even ask me these questions? So, which was kind of weird. And then and some of the stories they asked me, like the voices, one of them heard the voices and so forth. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird, coincidence, you know. But no, there's nothing. No, we're not haunted here or anything like that. And I'm trying to think. The following year is when my hip was done, and I was working again. I'm working on the house. Oh, and going back to this, I was convinced that Sarah. Okay, so I don't know why. Now this is one like we have the dead person in the windmill. I'm convinced that Sarah did something to her left hand. So I don't know why. I've looked at pictures. I've tried to look this up. I've read all the books that have been written about the property. But I'm convinced there was something about Sarah and her hurting her left hand. And I felt that knife going through my hand somehow created some kind of connection between Sarah and I. And I remember walking into the hospital. And literally I'm walking in and they look at me and they said, oh, you don't look good. And I lost a tremendous amount of blood. Because literally I severed the major artery and I'm pumping. And it was every beat of my heart. I'm pumping the blood out of my body. And I didn't even think of a tourniquet. Like, you know, when you think about tourniquet, all I did was go like this. So I'm dripping blood. And I remember walking in and how dark everything felt. Because I lost that much blood. It was just like, and they look at me, they said, you don't look good. And I go, no, it's getting kind of dark. And I just remember that feeling of that kind of like just narrowing and my vision narrowing and the darkness. And it was just a very, very weird kind of experience. But I felt like this somehow, the knife going through my hand, somehow connected me to Sarah. I can't explain that. But that to me was like a pivotal point with me connecting with this house.
And is this right before you were talking about the mediums that you contacted?
Correct.
With
This
your
was coming up.
downtime?
This is about the year before, though.
Yeah,
But this
okay.
somehow, I can't explain it. This hand, I felt there's like kind of a communal experience with the house because of this. It was
your own blood.
It was my own blood. Yeah, I mean, but it was
Serious.
Yeah, it was a connection though. But somehow I felt that this somehow connected me, like kind of electronically, with her, and that kind of like that massive loss of blood, and you know, coming to that point where you know everything is closing in. Somehow something with me, I think, connected to her. I don't know, you know, that my energy kind of dimmed down where enough where she could kind of like slip in or something. But that's exactly how I felt. I felt there was some kind of connection. And again, I still don't believe, but these thoughts are going through my brain. That somehow I'm connected with a ghost that I don't even believe in. So I'm trying to figure that one out.
Well, no,
So
but
were
it
you
sounds like
thinking that at the time that you're thinking about
I'm thinking that, right?
And
There's
then in
some-
retrospect, this is like
This is-
a bit at the moment.
Right, and I connected with her, and I'm like, why am I thinking these things? So I've got like these two sides of my brain coming into play it's like I don't believe it, but yet this other side is telling me this information, and I really can't process the two sides of my brain. So, in the following year, I hurt my arm. I ripped the bicep off the bone, and I have to have that surgically repaired. When I satisfy my plan's deductible, I fix my hip. And with the downtime of my hip, that's again over the summer. So all the activity of my house seems to occur in the summertime. So
activity meaning
meaning the energy, the
Oh,
spirits,
okay.
all
Right,
those things
right.
that would happen, all the stories we have
Right.
are usually from the summer. So that occur. My hip gets done, and I've got time. Obviously, I have a hip. I need to have time to heal. I have an assistant at that time that I've hired, and she talks about this woman, Cynthia. And again, I'm an atheist. Now, I'm still an atheist, even though part of my brain says I've connected with a ghost. The other part of my brain, that logical part of my brain, doesn't believe what the other part is saying. So I've got this quandary going on in my mind. So she's telling me all about this woman, Cynthia. And she says, well, Cynthia says this, Cynthia says that. And it's like, who the hell is this Cynthia? And she's always quoting Cynthia. So I have downtime with my hip, can't do anything. And I want to make an appointment with Cynthia. Don't ask me why, but I just to shut her up because she's talking about this woman Cynthia, and she's kind of like a life coach and what have you, and it's like I got to shut her up. So I go there as kind of a gaffe, and I'm going and I meet with Cynthia.
Where?
At her house. She has a studio at her house, and she's a shaman, which is a woman that works with the energy, your energies and the energies of the universe and kind of all these natural aspects. And I sit down with her, and we start talking, and I'm there literally so I can come back and say what a joke she is. That's the whole thing, is I'm there for one reason, is to shut up my assistant. I got time on my hands. This is going to be a fun experience. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it for all it's worth. And we talk, and she says, okay, let's put you on the table. And she's got like a massage table she lays you on.
What's she look like? Or what?
Cynthia, she looks like a normal person. Just a normal, everyday person that if you saw her at the mall and walking down the street, you wouldn't look at her twice. You wouldn't, she's just a very older, attractive woman. You wouldn't think twice about her. Nothing distinguishing about her in any way. So she puts me on the table, and she says, oh, all your chakras are all closed. Boy, you're all closed up. I got a lot of work to do here. And it's like, okay, yeah, lady. And I'm going through it. And as she's doing it, I can feel her hands over my body, but she's not touching me. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And she's rubbing her hands, bringing her hands across my body. And she says, okay, I'm going to open up your chakras. And I can feel the heat radiating from her hands, like she's got like oven mitts, like mitts on her hands, radiating this heat. And she's got a bag over my head, and I'm thinking, okay, she's got something going on. And she goes over my body, and I start to burn up. I'm starting to heat up, and I could feel something going on. She didn't give me anything to drink, nothing, no kind of fumes in the air, nothing. I'm just laying there. Hasn't given me any kind of post-hypnotic suggestion. I'm kind of like waiting for all of this to happen. And she's going, and she's opening up, all these chakras and so forth. And I start to burn. I'm burning up. I mean, literally, I'm burning up. She hasn't done anything, and it's like, okay. And I can't explain it. And I'm getting up more and more fire and what have you. And she says, okay, session's up, and it was 2 hours before I knew it. And I come home, and I walk through the door. My daughter looks at me. She goes, you don't look so good. I go, no, I don't feel good at all. And she's like, what's, and I go, I don't know. I got to go to bed. And that was like, I saw her at like 5. I got home like at 7:30. And went to bed, and I slept through to like 9:30, which I never do because it was on a work day, and my wife just didn't even wake me up, and I slept through. So I slept for like 14 hours. And I go down, and she goes, oh, you were sleeping so well, I didn't want to bother you. I could have been dead, is what I said to her. But I slept right through, and it was just like, and I'm spinning. I remember going to bed, and it was just like I was drunk. I had to put one foot on the floor, because my body was spinning. I'm going all over the place and I'm spinning. And it's like, okay, I don't know what she did to me. I don't understand it.
When you left? Did she tell you anything when you
No, nothing. I had nothing. There was no, and I'm waiting for this because I want to come back and zing my assistant. So the whole reason I'm going there is to say that she's a charlatan. I'm going there just for this reason. And it's like, and then my assistant asked me, how was it? I go, I can't talk about it right now. I can't explain. And I make another appointment. So, but at the same time this occurs, something else happened here, which triggered me to have a seance. One of the guys I was working with, I forget, there was something he recounted to me, and I'm just trying to remember what it was, but I go, we should have a seance. Oh, I know what it was. I was in the basement, and all of a sudden, I saw the little boy again. He's looking at me. He's in my basement, across from the bathroom I have in the basement. And clear as day, I see this kid, and I know it's not my son this time. And I look, and I get a good look at him, and he's gone. And it's like, okay. I remember talking with Cynthia, saying, okay, I want a medium. I want someone who can contact what's going on here. Now, still, I'm not a believer in the ghosts, okay. But I was like, I'm searching for answers now. I'm in like the search mode that maybe there is something. So I've gone from complete utter atheist to, well, maybe, but you really got to prove it to me.
This is in 5 years about or thereabouts.
This is like 1997. So we're about 7 years in.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So we're about 7 years in.
And about how many events do you think had occurred?
Oh, numerous. I mean, numerous kind of little happenings here, voices, the orbs, sounds, what have you. A lot of little things that I discounted along the way. It even, because in retrospect, I'm thinking back and thinking, well, that was that, and that was that, and there's so many things that because I just rule it out, that when you think back on it, it's like, oh my God, that was something, and that was something. But just looking at it from my old mind, there was just a rational explanation for everything. It was the wind, it was something, but it certainly wasn't supernatural. There was something else going on other than the supernatural, because that didn't exist. So anyway, we get Cynthia. I go to Cynthia and get a medium to come here, and she looked like a medium. So it was very difficult. Now I'm still a skeptic. I'm still the same brain, that right hand part of my brain, that logical part of my brain looks at her and says, come on. And she was a trans medium, which is when a medium would channel a ghost through her, which was really hokey. So she'd sit there and she'd shiver and what have you, and all of a sudden the spirit would manifest through her. So it was the kind of the theatrics. It was really hard for me to get a handle on. It was just to me, it was just too hokey. I'm still over here, but remembering, and I had her twice. I had her come, and really after a second, it was just like, yeah. But thinking back on her, the first time she came, all of a sudden she comes through and and she brings through an Irish woman whose name is Bridget. Clearly remember that. I still joke. I have a friend of mine who was here for the first seance. He still makes, and his wife does a Bridget imitation. Okay? So she still talks about Bridget, and we've got the Bridget, I'm Bridget. And the bro.
You do the Bridget imitation.
But that's a joke even to today.
Yeah.
Okay, with the Bridget. Okay? Well, reading the books about the house, Sarah's first assistant, okay, her right arm person, okay, the first one that she had from the books that I have was Bridget from Ireland. Well, who appears is Bridget from Ireland, okay? And it's just like, I'm thinking back, it's like, okay, I can't explain that. Now, this is something only about a year ago when I was reading the books that it dawned on me. It's like, oh my God, Bridget from Ireland comes to at the seance. Bridget from Ireland's connected to these books. Now, there's no way this woman would have had any way of knowing Bridget from Ireland came through. And back then I'm looking at her, and I really can't take her seriously because she's acting with the Irish brogue. And it's just way too much for me to swallow. But what she does tell me, there's one room in the house, which I found very interesting. She talks about how a little boy got killed. Now, she knows nothing about anything. And she talks about a little boy being killed in a room above us. And that's the same room that I have an awful feeling in. Everyone, you just have an uneasy feeling in this one room. Well, she picks out that room, saying a little boy was killed in that room. He saw too much. And that's like, oh, that kind of connects. You got the little boy, you got my little boy, but still, she's got the whole thing of it. I still couldn't get into what she was saying because I was just so skeptical of the delivery method. If it wasn't as flamboyant as it was, it would have been much better. So, but in retrospect, it was probably one of the better experiences I have because it actually fits so well into everything that was given. If you think of all that I've discovered, all I've learned about this house, it literally, it was perfect. Perfect. You couldn't have picked a better person to come through. What she's talking about, the death of the little child, all of that. She talks about, Sarah, describes Sarah, everything. And now she's a wonderful psychic, wonderful medium. But then to the George of that time, of the George of 2007, still a lot to swallow.
How did the other people in those two seances?
She had some great reading. She had some great readings. She came through, she'd look and she'd talk to people. She'd have some great readings. I remember one of my clients was here for that. And she looked at her and she started talking about her mom. And her mom had just passed. And she broke down in tears and what have you. It was pretty good. But yet I'm still like, okay, she's an older lady, what have you, maybe you're guessing. I still want to, I'm still looking at it like you're a magician, not that you've got any kind of supernatural power. And I still couldn't come away with what I wanted to come away with. It was good back then. There was just not enough of me to believe in that I could take it all in. I remember it all now, and it was really wonderful. It was kind of a foundation for me, but it wasn't enough to give me what I was searching for. So I go back to Cynthia. The next visit, I go to Cynthia again. She puts me on the table, what have you, does her stuff. I can feel her hands. She's doing all this kind of stuff to me. I can't explain it. Still can't explain it. Doesn't give me any liquids, anything. And still, it's like, okay, I don't understand how you can do what you do. I don't understand this. And probably 3 or 4 sessions go by, and brought my daughter with me. And we're going to go to a Celtics game. And a friend of mine has courtside seats. And we're going, and I bring her with me. I said, okay, on the way into the Celtics game, it was kind of an impromptu kind of thing. I have an appointment with Cynthia. I don't want to cancel, because now I'm getting into Cynthia because I don't understand what you're doing. So she's piqued my curiosity. I still don't believe in what she does, but she's piqued my curiosity enough where I want to continue. And Cynthia, at that session, does all her energy work and so forth. And she says, I'm going to give you something to drink. She goes, George, I really believe the reason I'm on earth is to train you, because you're one of the most psychic men I've ever met. And it's like, yeah, thanks. You want my money. And she gives me a little concoction. She says, I'm going to give you this. It's going to open up your third eye. So she puts all these flower essences and what have you in a cup. I drink it. Off I go to the Celtics game. I'm sitting at the Celtics game. And all of a sudden, this was the first quarter, watching the Celtics game, not thinking of anything, all these crows or ravens fly off the court at me. They're on the court, and I see them. I start ducking. They're hitting me, and my daughter's like wondering what the hell is going on, because I'm ducking, and she's like, she goes, what happened? I go, what even happened? I go, you didn't see all the birds? They just flew at us. I go, they had to hit you. And she goes, there are no birds. And I go, what do you mean this? And I'm like looking around, because there were birds that were flying at me off of the court. I felt them hit me in the head. These things were real. They were flying at me, no question in my mind. And she's like looking at me like, okay, something's like really wrong. And it's like, they're there. I go, come on. I go, how could you have not seen them? And she goes, it's a basketball game. She goes, there's no birds in the basketball game. And there was like a flock of ravens that flew off the court, literally at me. And I'm like, oh, I don't see them. Yeah, okay. And that's why she starts calling my wife. And, Dad saw these birds, and he's ducking and what have you. And I'm convinced, to this day, those birds were real. I can still remember feeling the wings hit me in the head. And the third quarter comes, and again, the birds fly off the court at me. So Michelle wants to call the cops on Cynthia because she thinks she gave me LSD. Allie's afraid to drive with me, because what if the birds start coming off of the highway and I lose control of the vehicle? And she's on my phone Googling, ravens and what's this, what does it mean, and what have you. I go, they must mean something or something. I don't know what. I go, but they're there. I go, and I'm convinced that they're there, they're real, and I'm arguing with her that why she can't see them.
What did Cynthia say?
Well, if you look, when you look up ravens, the ravens are kind of like the all-seeing, all-wise kind of omen. So if you ever think of the wizard, what's his familiar is a raven. So it was kind of the opening of my doorway, is what she did when she gave me this concoction. These ravens kind of this was kind of my indoctrination to another side. These birds were real. There's no way anyone could tell me that these birds didn't exist. And the fact that I felt the feathers hit me in the head as they flew by, and I'm ducking, and I can still remember that. And the memory to me is not of a fictitious bird. These are solid birds that were flying at me from a basketball court. Literally, during the basketball game, they fly at me. And I'll never forget that.
Are you still an atheist at that point?
Now it's like, now I'm in a position where I don't know what's going on, because these events are occurring, and they're obviously occurring at a good clip. So both to me personally and kind of surrounding me, and I can't quite explain what's taking place. I don't know what to think, but I know I'm not losing my mind. I'm convinced I've got my sanity. And I continue with Cynthia. I continue to have experiences here. I remember one of the guys, now going back, digressing for a minute, back to one of the guys who used to work for me. There was a guy who worked for me, good kid, he was a quarterback of the football team, and he'd work after hours and just do some trim work and so forth. We're building the bathroom, and there was a lot of cutting to be done, a lot of little pieces of wood to be put in place, and he just abruptly quit. And it was like, why would you just like up and leave? No, I can't come back. He called me up. He started doing arena football. Calls up, says, I'm going to be here from New Jersey. We're going to be playing in Manchester. I'm going to get you some tickets. I've got to talk to you. And I hadn't seen him since he quit. And it was just like, well, I want to know why he left. So he tells me a story of when he's in the back of the house cutting the wood, and here's a conversation. So the same conversation that I heard many a time in my hallway of a man and a woman talking, he thinks Michelle and I are at home. We're not home. And we have this conversation going on, and on. So he comes out, he's going to ask me a question. No one's there. No conversation. He goes back, okay, maybe I'm not hearing things. Goes back to cutting wood, conversation starts again. Goes out there. He's yelling for me, yelling for Michelle. Nobody. And goes back to cutting wood. Conversation starts again. He's out of there. He just left. He absolutely just left, never came back again, and he didn't tell me that story until the arena football. Now this is in the early on sessions with Cynthia too. Now all of a sudden I've got him telling me these stories, and he's corroborating me. He was a great kid, corroborating some of the stuff that I heard that I couldn't explain. So it's starting to gel a little. And go back to Cynthia again. And Cynthia, we talk, and she brings me through, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I've gone through numerous sessions, and I remember one of these sessions that I had, she goes, okay, she says, we have to bring you back to where you started. And what the hell does that mean? So she says, okay, let's lay on the table. And she says, just tell me what you see. She's got a beanbag over my eyes. She's doing a thing with her hands. And ain't no liquids, no nothing, no hallucinations, nothing's inside of me. She doesn't give me anything, no post-hypnotic suggestion other than we got to bring it to the beginning. And all of a sudden, I just in my own, air with the beanbag, and she goes, describe what you see. And I remember I was like in this big black void. And I'm out in the darkness. And it was so real, though, it was like a tangible emptiness. It was a real space, a real place that I was in. I could look around, and I'm like looking, and I'm describing what it is. And all of a sudden, this orange light is in front of me. And the orange light starts coming closer and closer and closer. And I remember literally moving through and into this orange kind of like tunnel. And I'm in this tunnel, and this I was on her table for over an hour. And I'm telling her this story, and I'm moving through this tunnel, and then I move into kind of an area. But that little transformation, that must have lasted 10 minutes, going through this orange tunnel. As a kind of like, I'm getting into it, I'm seeing the orange, and it's expanding. And again, this is just all coming to me, and it's sure with her energy and whatever she's doing. And I'm moving through this, and I don't understand how I'm seeing this. I don't understand what's going on. And she also yup, she's kind of yupping me along. She's not telling what I should be seeing. She's kind of just yesing and kind of like almost like knowing what I'm seeing without, knowing. But I felt like she was kind of almost along for the journey too. Can't explain it. Move through this tunnel, and all of a sudden I'm kind of like in, and I see these blues and purples. And if you notice my decor, we've got blues and purples. Well, that's where it comes from. It's from these colors I see, and these flashes of blues and flashes of purples. And she's going, yup. Like she knows what I'm seeing. All of a sudden, this woman kind of just drops into my field of vision. And she goes, okay, describe her. And I go, well, she looks like Morticia Adams is all I can describe. And she looks more like Morticia Adams, and she's all in blue. She goes, I know exactly who that is. And it's like, okay, that's, can't explain it, but she's Morticia Adams. I know nothing. Don't forget it. I'm an atheist. You couldn't be more of an atheist than me, more of like, I want nothing to do with religion. But here I am sitting on her table, going through some kind of experience. And this woman come in, and she's in blue, and she's there for about 10 minutes, just kind of like looking at me, hanging out, and looking at her, waiting, it's like a real experience, like me talking to you right now. And this is kind of occurring on her table at the guidance of the shaman. And
How is it back to the beginning? Is that
well, I'll kind of explain what she kind of said what that was. So I'm going and I'm seeing this woman here, and she's like looking at me and just kind of acknowledging, not a word. I'm kind of like waiting, just hold up a sign, give me something. Like, what am I seeing? And nothing. And I've got all these colors, all these flashes, like lightning, but bright colors. And so about an hour passes. This is kind of the abbreviated version of it. And I go, okay, what does this all mean? And what she was saying was that was my creation, that black void, and going through that orange tunnel, that was my birth. That was basically that orange, and not knowing what the chakra was. I knew none of that. I never read a book about any of that. All those colors actually had significance in the colors of the chakras, which I found amazing. And what was to me was very profound, which I still don't understand, is that when she says it was the Virgin Mary, and all cultures have this kind of Virgin Mary kind of icon, and she goes, well, I know who that was. That was the Virgin Mary. And it's like, that to me is a little bit, okay, it's the Virgin Mary. That's a little bit over the top. So, but it was a woman. But if you think about all the color, but the blue, if you look at my ceiling here, you see that blue. When you think of the Virgin Mary, what is she dressed in? She's dressed in that blue, or she's dressed in white, and she's got that little blue seashell around her. And I never made any of these connections. Again, I'm not, to me, I'm as far from religion as you could possibly be, but yet these religious experiences are happening to me, and I don't have any way of connecting them. But when I research these colors and these meanings of the things that I've seen, they actually have germane reference. They really mean something. And it's like, okay, something is really happening now. And all of a sudden I'm feeling different. And I really just I'm like feeling different, and I can't explain it. And I continue to go to Cynthia with more sessions. One of the more profound sessions that I ever had, actually it was 2 sessions that were very profound, that really changed me. And there's one session where if you say, George, what was the most pivotal point with Cynthia? What was that hump that really brought you over? Is that she put a crystal on my throat. So during one of these sessions, she puts a crystal. And again, she's not giving me any kind of hypnotic suggestions, nothing, okay, let's do this to you today, nothing like that. Let's put you on the table and see what happens. She puts a crystal on my throat.
Well, it's a big...
Kind of like some kind of stone, some kind of crystal. And she puts it on my throat during the middle of the session. And all of a sudden, I feel pain. I mean, I'm in agony. And I feel every muscle in my chest ripping. I can't breathe. Here is just, agony. I mean, absolute agony, excruciating agony. And I can't breathe. I can't do anything. And it just kind of just swelled up when she put this crystal on me. And it was an unbelievable experience. It was really an unbelievable experience. And she flips me over, and I can't breathe, and she's flipping me over and trying to help me breathe and what have you. And I go, what just happened to me? She goes, I had to release the pain of a past life. You were hung in a past life. And it was exactly, and she didn't know, she saw I'm reeling in pain, yet I wasn't terrified that I was going to die here. I was having all of this pain, but it was pain from someplace else. And it was an amazing experience, and the fact that she knew what I went through. But as soon as she said that, it was just like, oh my God. The pain, if I was being a noose and snapped, that's exactly what I felt. The ripping, the noose, everything. It was an amazing, amazing experience. And it was just like, okay, there's more to what's going on to me than what I can see. And the fact that she saw it really amazed me. But I know what I experienced. I know she didn't tell me what I was going to experience. And yet I lived this, and I hurt for days afterwards. For days. And then another time she puts me on her bed, and she goes, okay, well, she goes, we're going to do some energy work again. Again, put a crystal in my throat. Swells up. But this time I can taste seawater. And it felt like someone was trying to shove a basketball up my throat. And she goes, I drowned in a past life. And that was just like, okay, this is like really going over the top. And I'm seeing these things, I'm feeling these things, all these things are happening.
Does she say this happens to other people that she?
No, my experiences are unique in her. I'm a very unique kind of subject for her.
Right.
And there are other people that I've referred to Cynthia at this point because I want validation. Okay, it's going to happen to you. Wait, experience this. And a couple of other people I know have gone to Cynthia prior to even my being there. They haven't had those experiences. And so I'm kind of like what she said, I'm unique in all of this. And, another time, I'm on her massage table, and it was unbelievable. She goes, okay, we have to open up your heart. And she put the stone on me, and I'm laying there, and I swear to God that she took it out of a toaster oven. She puts it on my chest, and I'm like, and I can feel this, it was burning, and she's leaving it there, and it's like, I felt like I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start blistering, and it's like, and I was like trying to muscle through it. It's like, okay, she's got to know what she's doing, and I'm like, and I can feel the pain. It's just burning, and so she finally takes it off, and I'm like, she goes, what are you looking for? And I'm like looking around. I go, I'm looking for the toaster oven, because I pictured her like going to a toaster oven with like a pair of tongs and getting this thing and going and dropping it on me. And I go, I go, what'd you put on me? And she goes, here, feel it. And she handed me the stone, and it was ice cold. And it was just like, okay, that's like unbelievable. That's unbelievable. That's over the top.
Is there an explanation?
She was opening up my heart, and that stone opened up the heart energy. So if I had to testify that she had a toaster oven in her little studio, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like she put a burning hot rock on my chest, and for me to hold it, and I was convinced that she had a toaster oven. I just pictured this toaster oven. It's like, okay, it's got to be here, and there's no toaster oven.
Does she explain how good this is, or how?
Yeah, she's what great progress I've made, and she tells me how proud she is of me, and so forth. Because I'm coming, and I'm the atheist, so you're very cold, kind of sterile kind of personality. And that's still how I saw her, because I'm coming to her originally as a joke. And now all of a sudden, I'm coming for her for more experiences that I still can't explain.
It's a conversion.
It's a conversion, exactly. It's a progression. And she's, and then we're talking, and we're having all of these things. And again, we have the seances. Again, I have Patty come back. That was the first medium. She comes back. And another session comes through, still with the kind of the trans medium kind of shaking and stuff like that. I still question it. I've still got that part of me. I know what my experiences are. I'm coming there. I'm not there though. I'm coming middle. I'm believing in something. You got me from nothingness to I've had these experiences which really, were very powerful because I knew nothing. And the fact that I could go to a book and I could read about these colors and I could read about these, these images, and they actually came from someplace. And the ravens and all of that and the progression of all of that was just something that was amazing to me. It was really amazing, and I know I'm not losing my sanity. And I have Patty back, want to learn more, want her to tell me more about my house. Because again, I've seen this boy. I've seen this boy probably 50 times since I've been here. Seen him standing here. And numerous other stories. So it's not just the boy, I've seen other things, and other things have happened. But I've seen the boy, and he seems to be, even when I'm out, I'll see this kid in blue, and I'll turn, he's gone. So it's not even here. It's like I feel like when I leave the house, he's kind of with me. And so I want to know more about that. Bring her back. Again, she goes through the same things, all well and good. But still, I'm kind of like searching for something. It's like Patty just can't do it for me. She's okay, just can't. It's just nothing because of her kind of theatrics. It's very, very difficult for me to really latch onto that. I'm still very skeptical of it just because of the way it's being delivered. So I'm now kind of open to the concept. Now I'm open for information. I want to learn more. I really want to see. It's like, okay, you can bring me over the other side, but there's got to be something compelling. There's got to be something compelling. So talking with Cynthia about that, and meet Maria. Because I tell her, Patty's just not doing it for me. I need another medium. I want someone to come over. And Maria enters the picture. And
What do we need to know about Maria? I mean,
Well, Maria, the most amazing thing. So at this point, I've had numerous experiences in the house. Numerous experiences. And we have Maria over for the exact same kind of seance that Patty would have undertaken. Maria, says, hi, oh, lovely house and what have you. And again, obviously it's under construction because this is going back to probably 2008 at this point. And she's walking in and she says, okay, I want to walk around for a couple minutes. Just a few minutes to get a feel for the property. So I bring her in, she comes in here, and she starts telling me about a little girl that she sees over here. Well, I've seen that little girl over here. There's a little girl that plays my piano. And I've seen this little girl, she starts telling that there's no way that she knows anything that's going on here. Nothing. There's no books, there's nothing on the internet, nothing published in any way. And the first thing, I bring her in, little girl over here. And I can see her dancing, and she plays the piano, and it's like, okay, that's good. Okay, you're doing good. You came good. You're good out of the gate. That's a good one. And we start talking, and and I'm more listening than talking because I don't want to tell her anything. Because again, I want good information. I don't want to have anything staged or anyone play me or anything like that. So she's not getting anything from me. I'm still playing cards. I'm still playing cards close to the vest. So that was excellent. That was really something. Okay, boom, there. We walk up the stairs. Again, she goes, okay, she says, I there's a conversation taking place. The conversation is like I hear, Maria, that boom, there's a conversation taking place right here. And she says, okay, they had a secret conversation in this closet. And it's like, now it's like, wow. So now she's 2 for 2. So we're walking around, and she says, okay, she says, someone walks up and down these stairs, which are the staircase that I heard, going across my office. Very good. And then she goes, I'm being drawn to the back of the house. She, not knowing anything, goes to that room, says the tragedy of the little kid being killed. Something horrible happened in this room. She goes, a boy was killed in this room. Okay, now we're really getting someplace because now she's really just hitting a home run. And we walk around some more. We go to a bedroom, and there's a bedroom in the house that I can't keep anything with any kind of battery power in. Just sucks it dry. We walk into that bedroom, and I've seen an older girl who I believe to somehow be connected to the younger girl. And what does she talk about? Is that we've got this girl in the bedroom. She died in the closet. And describes kind of the same thing that I've seen out of the corner of my eye, describes her. We go up to the 3rd floor, describes a girl and Sarah, how Sarah would go in the tower. People from my town have seen the old woman in the tower. It's like, okay, I mean, it was really an amazing, everywhere she went, it was like if I scripted something for her and said, okay, when you come here, point A, read this, point B, read this, point C, read this. She hit literally almost every occurrence that I could have mapped out for her, she hit it precisely. And that 15-minute walkthrough turned into 3.5 hours. So she was supposed to have the seance, but she's being pulled around the property, going down the basement, up, okay, I gotta go to the windmill now. And we're supposed to be having the seance. So this is 3.5 hours later that we're gonna start the seance. And she just comes through and nails the seance, really, everyone's very impressed. And I go, can I pay you? She says, oh my God, no. She says, I just want the opportunity to come back here again. This is like no place I've ever seen. Which was just like, whoa, you're not in for the money. That's very, very impressive. But it was amazing that she hit literally 100%.
Okay. But yeah, the lady of the house now is showing me this. So she knew what was going on, but wouldn't say anything. Because I definitely know.
When I first moved in, one of the first things that ever happened here was the voices.
In here?
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the voices, the conversation.
Thank you. Because that's what they did. Yeah.
And I could hear them clear as day. And then one of the guys who used to work for me, he left and never came back, heard the voices one night. Mm-hmm. And he took off. He heard him 3 times. He came, he was working out there, came, thought that was Michelle and I. He quieted down, came back, thought it was Michelle and I again. Nope, he's yelling for us. 3rd time it happened, he just left.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me for a year why he quit.
Because he heard the voices. This is a busy area right here, very busy. Very busy. Steve, you don't have to come up. I just want to... This room is where the woman of the house, she's telling me, she used to sit up here. But she now likes to kind of stay here. You know when you have people coming and things like that, when she's visiting, she'll come up here. Safe. Yeah, she's different. She's some type of housemaid or something. And we worked hard to keep things secretive. We had to. Sarah wanted more, the woman, she wanted more children, but she couldn't. This is what this housemaid is saying. And that little boy that you see definitely still likes to come back here and visit because everyone liked him, he was precocious. He'd get into trouble, but it went too far when he saw what he wasn't supposed to see. And he did. That's one of the reasons. The big reason why. That's what she's telling me, because she ran this house. She's got the keys, this housemaid. She was one of them. It shows nooks and crannies. You knew what was going on, but you had to keep your mouth shut. And you didn't get caught looking. And then they tried hiding his body. They stuffed it down something. Oh my goodness, okay. That's not cool. They stuffed it. And she's getting sad because she says, I treated him like my own. You know why I left this room? Because I don't like this room. Not because of the laundry either. I don't like this room. And all of a sudden I'm getting like, and the room wasn't always like this, that's for sure. It's so cold and I am going backwards right now. Like I got hit in the back. Ugh, and I can't breathe. That's why I was walking out, Joy. I cannot. And this is where he's going. This is where it happened. This is where it happened. So someone got killed in this room, too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing the blood. I'm going to get descriptive with you, but it was a brutal killing. And crushed, bone crushed, like here, like choking first. So the energy in this room is still there with that. And I'm just feeling it right here. And I see a younger man, boy, and an older man. Okay. It's a young boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, what do we do? What do we do? They bring him downstairs. You know where they go downstairs and they hide and everything? But there was still kids getting dragged down there, dragged down in there. He saw something. He saw it. What did he saw it. He says, I saw it. I saw it.
She hit it precisely. And that 15-minute walkthrough turned into 3.5 hours. So she was supposed to have the seance, but she's being pulled around the property, going down the basement, up, okay, I gotta go to the windmill now. And we're supposed to be having the seance. So this is 3.5 hours later that we're gonna start the seance. And she just comes through and nails the seance, really, everyone's very impressed. And I go, can I pay you? She says, oh my God, no. She says, I just want the opportunity to come back here again. This is like no place I've ever seen. Which was just like, whoa, you're not in for the money. That's very, very impressive. But it was amazing that she hit literally 100%. And now you've got this person who's an atheist. Now you've got me searching for reasons why I shouldn't believe, because I really want to believe. And I'm like on this side now. It's like, okay, now it's like, okay, show me something why I shouldn't believe. as opposed to show me something why I should, because there's enough, more than enough, that everyone's given me to believe. So I continue to go to Cynthia. One of the most pivotal now, the seances up until this point in time, we're trying to get validation for the house and for me. And I wanted other people to kind of experience it. Validate, no, so, because I just don't want someone talking to me. I want to be able to have other people's opinions, whether they be good or bad, to filter into my brain.
That it's real.
That it's real, exactly. So I don't want to only just touch my judgment at this point, because I'm questioning my own disbeliefs are becoming beliefs. So I want other people to kind of like validate that for me and bring it together for me.
These people have no experience like you didn't as an atheist, or are they?
No, these are just random people I would bring together.
Right.
So they're just random people I would bring together. And and one of the first seances. Now I'm going to Cynthia at this point in time, going through, and this was amazing. So we did it in the dining room. We had maybe a dozen people or so around the dining room table, and Justin's mother, Justin who works for me now, his mother's there at the end of the table. Justin's mother's friend's son kills himself, and he's coming through, and I'm sitting right to the right hand of Maria, or excuse me, the left hand of Maria, and she says, well, he was kind of into drugs, and all of a sudden, this image of a needle going to an arm came into my head. It was like someone screamed an image into my brain, and I looked at Maria, she looked at me, and she says, no, he was really into some heavy drugs. And it was just, I don't know where that came from, how it came to me, but it was so vivid and so real, and it was a scream, but no sounds. And he wanted to say how bad off he was when he came back from Iraq or whatever, that he took his own life, and he was into a lot of drugs. And when she said, no, he was kind of into drugs, he really wanted to let people know, no, I really hit the skids. And that scream was amazing. And also, there was a little old lady that I had in my head. Don't know where she came from. I have this little old lady with a walker in my head at that first seance. I can't get rid of her. It's like, and she's just kind of like hanging out, just nice little old lady, just hanging out. And Maria's going around the room kind of giving messages. And she's this little old, very patient, but she's with me. And I have this little old lady, can see her clear as day, with me. And she goes to my friend's wife. And she says, okay, I have someone here for you. And she says, she's, a short, elderly woman with a walker. As soon as she acknowledged her, the image left me and went over to that woman. And it was, I could almost like felt her leave. And Maria says to her, she goes, her signature would be that everywhere she went, she'd bring a little box of chocolates. And she looked, and the woman started breaking down. My friend's wife started crying. And she's like, because she knew exactly who that was. That was her little Aunt Elsie. And because everywhere she went, little Aunt Elsie would bring a box of chocolates with her. That was her calling card. And here comes little Aunt Elsie. And it was just like, wow. So that, from a seance standpoint, was, up until then, it was to give people to kind of validate my house and validate the experience of my house and try to get a message for me. It was all about me. But to be able to relate that coming through for her and seeing how powerful it was for her meant something. So it was actually, I felt good being able to give his, Aunt Elsie, and she was a disbeliever up until she just came to just hang on, because I said, come on, you got to come, it'll be fun, and just hang out. And she was blown away by the fact that little Aunt Elsie came through, and she was specific. There's no question that little Aunt Elsie visited us that night. Okay, no question. And that night, I remember being with that scream, that silent scream of how I saw that needle in that guy's arm was just amazing. And that was really something where I can't explain, but I know it was 100% real. It was 100% real. And the fact that we shared that image, to me, it was profound. So now I'm progressing through. And again, continuing with my sessions, every week or so, maybe week and a half with Cynthia. And all of a sudden, it comes to, this is probably 3 years ago, that I want to take Reiki. So now I'm searching for things. And all these topics and what have you, I want to read about it and learn about. So I want to take Reiki class. And I go to sign up for the Reiki class at the local high school. And I get a phone call. Well, only me and one other woman signed up for class, and unless they have 5 people in class, they're going to cancel class. So I happened to drive by the Hampton Falls grammar school, and they're making maple sugar. And this is like February, whatever. They're boiling up the sugar and what have you. I pull in, and I walk in, and I see one of that woman who Aunt Elsie came through. I saw her car. That's actually what drove me in. And I walk in, and I go, "Who wants to take Reiki class?" Because I didn't know who to ask. And I go, "Who wants to take Reiki class?" And they're looking at me, and I said, "I really want to take Reiki." It's at the high school. I said, "Don't you want to learn about Reiki?" And we struck up a bargain that I would make a bench for the teacher who ran the maple sugaring in exchange for the Hampton Falls mums going to Reiki class. So now I can have my Reiki class. So Reiki class starts. It's the Hampton Falls mum. There's like 4 of them or 5 of them attend the class. And one woman, her name is Mary, and the teacher, and me. So 3rd class comes along, and it's time for us to Reiki each other. So the teacher picks me to Reiki Mary. And
How do you Reiki somebody?
you kind of like, you feel their energy. So you kind of impart their energy. You try to give your energy through them in a healing kind of way.
And you report on what's happening, or?
No. You try to settle in, and you try to focus in on your energy, and you try to channel the energy, because there's energy all around us. You want to channel that energy through you and into someone's body for healing, and without touching them or anything like that. So I get up to Mary, and all of a sudden I get a message from Mary, and I start shaking and sweating and what have you. And I don't want the Hampton Falls mums to know that there's anything about me that's weird. Okay, so I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And my throat is killing me. So I'm waiting. I finish the Reiki session, and I go to Mary. I go, "Can I talk to you?" And I grab the teacher. I go, "I have to talk to her." And they're like looking at me like I'm whacked. So the Hampton Falls mums leave, and Mary waits. The teacher's there, and I explained to the teacher, and the teacher kind of understood about Reiki and the energy and all that, and sometimes, things come through. And so she and she's waiting for us. And I said to Mary, "Mary, I go, I have to tell you something." I go, "Sometimes when I touch people now, things happen." I go, "I get messages." And she's like, "What?" And she's like looking at me like I'm really insane. I go, "Do you know who Arthur is?" And she looks at me, and she's like freaking out. It's like, "Okay, so I think you know who Arthur is." I go, "Being with Arthur is a good thing. Does that make sense to you?" And I know nothing about Mary. I don't know her last name. I don't know anything about Mary. And here I am, a complete stranger. I couldn't be more of a stranger, coming up to her saying, "Being with Arthur is a good thing." She knows Arthur, there's no question. And she starts saying, "Well, why are you saying that? Why would you ask me that? I don't know you." And it's like, no. I said, and I tried to explain to her. I said, it just kind of comes through. And she says, "Well, I wasn't even thinking of Arthur when I was on the table." I said, "I know you were thinking of your life partner." And now she's really freaked out, because I know that she was, a lesbian, and because her partner came through to me. And I'm trying to be as nice as I can be, and trying to but I want validation of what I'm saying. So the teacher's trying to calm her down. She's really, really amazed, really freaked out, bawling her eyes out, doesn't understand why the stranger is talking about Arthur. She calms down. I said, "Okay, so you know who Arthur is? Can you kind of tell me a little?" And this is like 15 minutes into this. So she calms down, the teacher's, talking with her and so forth. Mary starts telling us that her life partner died the prior March. Now this is the subsequent March. And she met Arthur at a Christmas party. Really likes Arthur, but is afraid to kind of move forward with the relationship, because she feels like she's betraying the memory of her loved one. And she doesn't know what to do about that. And I said to her, "Obviously it's okay. She's telling you it's okay to move on." I go, "I don't know you. You don't know me." I go, "I'm telling you about Arthur." I go, you gotta kind of have to believe in this. And she's really, she's blown away. She's absolutely, it's not what she was expecting. She's absolutely blown away by this. We chit-chat for 15, 20 minutes. We walk out. Next week comes, I'm in class early talking to the teacher ahead of time. And Mary walks in. I go, "Mary, how's Arthur?" And the Hampton Falls mums are there. I'm like, looking at me, "What the hell are you talking about?" And she looks at me and she goes, "It was the best night of sleep I've had in years." And that meant something to me because here I am, I gave her something, I changed her life. I literally changed her life and gave her validation. It's okay to be with Arthur. Without my message, she might not be with Arthur. So, but here I am, this complete strange guy coming to you, giving you something from beyond. How do you deny it? You can't deny it. So that night at class, we had the fluorescent lights in the classroom. The teacher brought in a table lamp to kind of soften the effect, so she could shut off the fluorescent lights and would just have this table lamp to work with. And she starts talking about her attunement in Reiki, and that's when the Reiki master balances your energy. And she was talking about how her cat hopped up on her chest with her attunement, and how he purred, and she never saw the cat so relaxed, and how he just melded into the energy when she was being attuned and all that. And she's, talking about all that, how great the energy flow was, and how wonderful and peaceful it was. And then she says, okay, she says, let's set the massage table, and don't worry about the cat hair on the lamp, when we turn it on. And I look at her and I say, the cat hair on the lamp doesn't belong from the cat from your attunement. The cat from your attunement's passed on. And she looks at me, and I was like, oh shit. And I didn't mean it just came out. And she looks at me, and she's got tears in her eyes rolling down. And she goes, yes. And the Hampton Falls mom, she goes, she didn't say anything about her cat being dead. And one's elbowing me and what have you. And you could see she was physically, affected by this cat. And she really, really choked up. Really choked up. So after class, she goes, George. I go, yes, I know. And I come up, she goes, my cat's here. I go, yes, your cat is here. And now no one's around. And she goes, well, what? I said, okay, your cat wasn't a cat. Your cat was like a child. And everywhere you went, you'd bring this cat with you. I go, you were bonded with this cat in a way that this other cat doesn't compare to. I said, this cat was like your son. And I go, he's showing me also that he's out in a motorcycle. I can't quite explain this. I said, I don't know what this means. He's on a motorcycle going through the mountains. And she goes, oh my God, the last thing we did with him is we took him for a ride in our motorcycle down the Kangamangas Highway. And it was just okay, this is good. This is good. So obviously, at this point, I'm pretty much from the disbelief to 100% in the belief column. Because I can give someone a message that's germane, that's really real, a name, a place, an event that's coming to me. Okay, I'm not asking for it to come to me. It's just kind of coming to me. And
which means it's a little different than being belief. It's
it's knowing.
It's reality.
It's knowing. To me, that there's a knowing that when I die now, I'm not going to disappear. I'm going to move on. And I don't know if it's a comforting feeling. It's a feeling that kind of is what it is, and it's acceptance that I'm going to come again. And I've been already. I've already lived those lives, and I'm going to be again. And it's kind of like a big circle that I envision in my brain now, as opposed to just something where we die and that's the end of us. To me, there's no question that I'm going to continue in another form, in another place, in another time, and that what we see is not all that there is. There's so much more than what my eyes can see. And there's no doubt from being here that I've been just taking a metamorphosis into this kind of place.
You think that it will take others as long a road and happenstance to get to where you are, or are you really interested in trying to help them get there faster than it took?
I think if this house can convert me, and there's no one in this world, I would put my atheism against anyone's as far as being absolutely ingrained in the fact that there is no devil, there is no God, there is no life, there's only what we see. Once we die, we're gone. To come from that, from an absolute standpoint, I was convinced of it. There's no question in my mind that when you go, you're gone. Okay, to coming to the fact that when you go, you're not gone. Okay, that you kind of exist in many forms, in many realms. And I know that for a fact. I'm convinced of that. There's no one who can tell me in any other way that we will continue to exist. And sometimes, though, even now, like a few weeks ago, I have a service rep that works with one of the insurance companies. And I'm having lunch with her. And I have a message comes to me. And literally, I can feel her grandmother next to her. Can feel her, just it's clear as day. I can describe her, I can hear her. And I look at her and I go, your grandmother's here. And she goes, what? I go, your grandmother's here. And she's like looking at me like, and she's heard some of my stories and what have you now. And I go, she's here. And I go, okay, I said, let me kind of like give you a description, let me know I'm on the mark. And I describe her, and I go, she's got like a hoarse voice. And she's, oh yeah, she was a chain smoker, and I never saw her without a cigarette and so forth. I go, okay, she's showing me your house. And I've never been to her house, I don't know anything about her house. And I describe her kitchen, describe her patio, describe her pool. And I go, you built your land next to a swamp? She goes, no, it's a water retention area. I go, no, that's a swamp. I go, okay, good. I got the right place. I go, okay, you're in your kitchen. And you pick up your husband's cell phone. And an argument occurs. And I go, who looks like you? He goes, your sister look like you? And she shows me a picture of her sister. I go, no, that's not it. I go, does your mother look like you? What does your mother look like? No. I go, okay, this woman works with your husband. And she like, I mean, you could see like, she was like, physically like kind of like taken back with that one. And she goes, I don't know. I don't know. And you could see, I mean, I knew that I hit home with that one. And all of it, and she, and then I said, okay, your grandmother wants to let you know that she's giving her support and she's her strength and she's behind you. I said, she just wants you to know that she's there for you. And we walk up after lunch, and what it was is I couldn't even eat. I had this pain in my throat that just came. And I had to kind of give it up, or I couldn't even eat. Literally, it was that profound. So I go to my car, she goes to her car. A minute, not even a minute goes by, I get a text message from her. You were 100% right. Can't talk about it. We'll tell you later. So, I don't know, like a week ago, whatever. We go on an appointment. I go, okay, what is it? And she goes, her husband left her for another woman she worked with. She shows me a picture of the woman. Okay, that's her. So, I mean, I knew nothing about her, but yet here I am telling her husband's cheating on her at lunch. So, I mean, I can't explain it. I know it's 100% real. There's no question. And I was 100% accurate. I described everything perfectly. Everything perfectly. Can't explain it.
You think that other folks would have to take Reiki and go to shamans and see mediums to get to where you've gotten as fast as you've gotten? Or
I don't know if it was the hit in my head that kind of opened up something, because don't forget I had a massive concussion. Yeah. And also that traumatic loss of blood. So I don't know if somehow, because if you're thinking back until when I really accelerated, that knife wound, I think, could have been really the accelerator. The impact in my head obviously did something because it brought me here. So that kind of opened up some kind of doorway to allow me to get the information, to know about the house going for sale, to come and buy it. Because I never looked at the want ads. Never read the want ads, other than going for a yard sale. I'd look at the yard sale pages. That was the extent of it. Had no interest in buying a house whatsoever. So to have a compulsion to go read the want ads, that had to be opened up at that point in time with the accident, with the concussion.
Well, this home that you bought, like Maria said, there's no place like it, it sounds like. It seems like it's a combination of your concussion, this house that you bought, and what you've seen in it, and then all the training and the investigations that you've sort of chased.
Yes, exactly.
It's a long road, it seems. It's a long road, but
it's
really an amazing door you've opened up.
It has been. It's been an amazing journey that all of a sudden I'm just someplace that I never in my life thought I would be. I'm talking about things that I would have said you need medicine and you need psychological help. If it was 15 years ago, I would have said, you need help. You need help. There's no such thing as that. And now I'm at the other extreme of it where I'm so convinced and I want to share that. So now we do the seances. Okay, I do the seances not to talk to my house, because I can talk to my house just fine. And I can feel and I can walk through the house and I have a kind of a connection with the house that I can't quite explain. But the seances, and I invite people for the seances that I know, I don't want to give them messages, but I know there are messages for them. So I'll get them together with Maria, who has no contact with them, to give them those messages, kind of like what I gave to Mary, Because probably from a pivotal standpoint in my life, because up until the Mary experience was I would feel things, and some of the things I feel weren't so great. The Mary thing, I actually felt wonderful. I felt wonderful that I've changed her life, and I know I've changed the direction for her life. That this is something that she needed, and without that message, she would be on a different track. And I know I put her on track. And I try to do, now I get people together, and I try to give them that kind of message and that kind of feeling, and not only get it through themselves, from a message directly, but in an open setting where they can not only get their message, but they get a message that kind of amplifies from someone else's experience coming in, that they can really have an experience here. It's not just I'm getting a message and I question it in my brain. I live through what I see of other people that I can connect with.
And so you have a gut feel for how these people will...
There's a reason why these people attend the seance and the combination that they do.
Because not all of them have ever even been to one, and that's,
No.
And so you have a mixed group of people that are maybe as agnostic as you used to be.
Correct.
And then others that have experience, and so you have sort of a community event.
Exactly.
Where they can open their eyes.
It's kind of just starting the voyage. Just kind of starting the voyage, or some people really bringing them into the voyage with the message that they need. So there's one client that's come, and I believe so firmly in this that I would throw away a sale if I have a spirit that's coming to me, and I've done this. This was in the middle of a meeting that all of a sudden I had this woman's father come to me, and he's literally on me, and I had to stop the meeting, and I didn't quite know how to do it, but this is an opening sales presentation, and I have a sales rep on my side. I have her CEO on one side, the vice president of sales on the other, and I have her directly across from me. Okay? And all of a sudden, her father grabs my throat like I've never been grabbed before. And I have to start talking to her, not about insurance sales, but about seances and coming to a seance for a message. And they looked at me like, do you really want to do business with this guy? And she says, oh my God, I'd love to come. But I believe so much in that I'm willing to throw away a sale because I value the fact that spirit says, oh my God, I finally have someone to talk to. And I'm not going to take that away from that spirit. So, and I don't believe they'll take me wrong either. I believe that spirit knows when and how that they should open their mouth and what the outcome will be. And I trust in that completely. So much I'm willing to put my wallet where my mouth is, that I will do whatever. And if it's coming through, if it's legitimate, I'm going to open my mouth and off it goes. So.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the events of the house that really is undeniable at any, because my daughter's skeptical, son was skeptical, wife is skeptical. I'm over there. I'm there, okay, but yet they're not there, is when my daughter had a sleepover. And I took her and her friends to a concert the night before, and the carriage house was vacant. No one was in there at all. She had a sleepover in the carriage house. One of her friends wanted to use the Ouija board. So they went in there with one of my Ouija boards, and they had a little seance of their own. Because I don't know how we talked about the previous seances. It came up in some kind of side conversation, but only a snippet of it. Nothing to really talk about. And one of the girls said, let's get the Ouija board, let's try it. And that's around 11:50 at night. And they go in, they have this kind of Ouija board session. My daughter tells me, oh yeah, a little boy came through and all this kind of stuff. And, it was just a very weird kind of this discussion they had. And with kids, you think that one's going to be pushing the device and so forth. And you really don't think much of it. Exactly 24 hours later. So exactly 24 hours later, I'm in bed with my wife, and it felt like an earthquake hit. The house is shaking. I mean, I wake up out of a dead sleep at 11:50. I wake up out of a dead sleep, and then literally the house is shaking. And it's like an earthquake. Or when I lived on a main street growing up, if there were huge, heavy trucks going by the house would shake because of the weight of the vehicles. And that's what it felt like. And the house was like violently shaking. We really moved like an earthquake is occurring. And I get up and I'm looking, and I'm thinking that something's wrong. So I get up and I'm looking around, and it lasted for maybe 20, 30 seconds. So it wasn't just a small little shaking. This was a long shaking. This was enough to get all of us up and like wondering. And one of my thoughts is maybe someone got, broke into the house and they tripped and they knocked something else over. and what have you. I put the light on and look down here. Nothing's disturbed down here. And I'm like wondering what could have caused that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I lost a chimney. So the house has 4 chimneys. So I'm thinking, what would have caused that continual shaking of the house? And so I come down, I look here, look at my office, look at my wife's office. Nothing. I think I peeked in the kitchen and went back upstairs to the 4th floor, the tower, which overlooks the entire house. And I look and I'm convinced that I had to have lost a chimney. And I could just picture if the chimney was to topple piece by piece and those bricks are smashing on the roof and they're bouncing on the roof and shaking the house, that's all I could think of. And I go up there and all the chimneys are intact. So it's like, okay. Then all of a sudden I hear my wife, the dining room. I run downstairs, go to the dining room. The chandelier that we have in there is all little crystal balls. It's swaying back and forth. Half of the balls, almost exactly taken in half, and the cords that attach them are taken off and scattered throughout the room. There was a picture that was above the fireplace. That's thrown to the right-hand side. There was a small clock that was thrown to the left-hand side, and there were little knickknacks and so forth. They're thrown on the other side of the room. The picture was held on with a big washer that you had to lift the picture off of the washer in order to get it off the wall. There's no way that the cord was completely attached. It was hung behind this washer, and the washer was 2 inches in diameter. So the thing had to be lifted up an inch in order to get the cord free to be thrown. So the picture just didn't fall off the wall. The picture was thrown off the wall. And it was just an amazing experience. And I have no explanation for it, other than it had exactly 24 hours to when she said she started using that Ouija board. 24 hours exactly.
There is no explanation for that.
No,
Somebody had a burglar.
Yeah, no. I mean, but they'll be the quickest burglar in town. Who would come in and burglarize your house by taking half your chandelier apart and then run away with no evidence? I mean, literally. But it was literally things were just thrown and scattered, and that ties in exactly with what that previous owner told me about when he was talking about the picture being thrown off of the office fireplace and how it hopped off the wall.
You know, some of the stories that you've talked about, like Sarah and the individuals that have, so you've got pieces of their stories, but not complete stories, and you wonder if the answer to here, not just converting people and introducing people, is the sum of all the stories that are really lurking behind
Correct.
The examples that you have.
Exactly.
That would be fascinating.
So I know that, for instance, let's talk about Sarah for a second. So there's a lot more, and there are 3 books written about the house. And we should get into this in more depth at some point. So there are 3 books written about the house by a woman, Suzanne Perfect, who was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Sarah. Well, the books that she wrote weren't 100% accurate. And Suzanne Perfect wasn't perfect from what I understand and how when my conversation I had with her before she passed on. She took some things from the house. So that's an interesting story into itself. Her sister and brother-in-law, so the sister's husband, came over, kind of unannounced, just to say hello and what have you. They were in the area. They came up. I think they live in Connecticut, and we started talking. And this is after the hand injury, where I felt like I had some kind of connection with Sarah. And we're just talking. We're sitting in this room, in this living room, and we're talking about them growing up and being here and remembering the house and so forth. And I go, Sarah doesn't like Suzanne. She took some things from this, and I don't know where this is coming from. All of a sudden, this stuff is just coming to me as I'm talking to this woman, and she's looking at me, and I start giving her real information about when they were young, and she's just looking at me, and you could see all of a sudden she's getting teary-eyed, and the husband doesn't know how to take me. This is the first time we ever met, and I'm like speaking like Sarah's inside of me, and I have these memories that don't belong to me, but yet I'm conveying to them. And they were here for probably about 1 to 5. And probably about 2 hours of conversation took place of where I'm talking, but not as George. I'm literally talking like if I was Sarah and having information that I would have no access to with this woman. And maybe a month and a half goes by. My phone rings at 9 o'clock at night. Who's on the phone but Suzanne Perfect, the author of the books? Okay? She and I had a conversation, and it wasn't more of a conversation, but it was more of a confession to me. And it was like she took things, and I don't know how, and I had this image of a spoon that was all contorted, and it was like a money clip that someone made, and she hid this. And I'm talking about this spoon, and I go, people were looking for this. This had a lot of sentimental value, and you took this. And she's saying, oh, I'm sorry. She says, I know I shouldn't have taken it. I don't know where this information is coming from. It's just coming into me, and I'm having a conversation, but it's almost like a third-party conversation with her. It was an amazing, like kind of like when we talked about Bridget being channeled by that trans medium. I can't really understand that, but it was like part of me stepped aside and allowed my mouth to be used by someone else to have this conversation. And this was only a month or so prior to her death that we had this conversation. But it was like a confession. It was like now she could leave. She did some things. She took some things that she should never have. And she called me up to kind of atone for that and to be able to move on. It was really an amazing experience that if I tried to relate it to me from 15 years ago, I'd be like, you're nuts. I experienced it. I don't know how I experienced it, but I know it was 100% real. And I know that helped her move on. She really needed to confess and to be able to tell somebody what she did, what she took, that she was sorry, that she shouldn't have. And here she was telling me, a total stranger, who actually could relate and interact on that and tell her things that were germane to her growing up here. Really an amazing experience.
You're more almost a medium than you are a converter, in that you're facilitating a lot more. You think back to when you started, when you bought this house, and compared to all you've seen and done since then, you're becoming a medium in the sense that you're channeling and you're also teaching.
Exactly. So I for something happened to me that whatever that shaman opened up brought in and allowed something. And I really believe I'm giving healing, and I'm allowing people to kind of move through to another place in another way of comfort. So we'll move through this life in a level of comfort that they couldn't have in another way.
There seems to be a lot of reassurance happening at these spirit gatherings, these seances.
Exactly.
In the channeling. It's closure for some people, it seems.
It's tremendously welcoming. Like that woman I told you about earlier, that at the middle of a meeting, I am ready to blow a sail because I value her father's energy so much that I'm going to start talking about it. And let the chips fall where they will. I'm going to value that and respect that and start talking about that. So I invited her to a seance. She comes to the seance, and we're conducting it. Maria's at the helm. I'm sitting there, and as soon as the seance starts, I feel a grip on my forearm. And I feel someone holding on to my forearm. I mean, it was really, I could feel 5 fingers and a thumb just holding on, and just right there. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. I feel this tightening. And waiting. And Maria's talking. She goes around the room. She skips her. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's him. I know who it is. And skips her. And she comes around to me. So she does like right around to me. And she starts talking about this gentleman. She starts describing him. And all of a sudden, she goes, oh, that's for me. She knew exactly. And as soon as she acknowledged him, I felt the hand leave my forearm. It was amazing. I felt, and the father said, thank you for pulling the plug, which I think anyone who's done that to a relative, if someone came through and said, thank you, because you'd always have that, should I have really done that? Should I, you're always going to second guess that action. But to have someone come through and say, thank you, you did the right thing, okay? Maria's a complete stranger to this woman, no? And here she is saying he wants to say thank you for doing what you knew was best and ending his life. And what better message could you have to knowing that you absolutely did the right thing? And after the seance was done, that was a wonderful, wonderful message. After it's done, she comes over, and I relate to her about the forearm. And she goes, oh, yes, that was him. Because what he was known for is to go around his factory and have one of those grip things. And when he'd come up to you, he would grab you by the forearm to get your attention, look you in the eye, and then start talking. But he'd hold you right by the forearm. That's like his trademark. That's his signature, was that grip. What better evidence could you have of the whole connection of that grip? That was just really an amazing experience. So, you can see from the beginning of when we started talking to being the atheist and talking about all those religions and religions being a bunk and so forth, to be able to have this kind of direct connection and that direct validation. So it's not just that I had a nerve twitch. It's just, and if you want to call it a nerve twitch, that's fine. Okay? But that nerve twitch corresponded with a thank you that corresponded with the validity that this is what his trademark was. You can't deny that. You just can't deny that. There's just no, I don't care what connections you try to draw and say, it could have been this, it couldn't have been that. No, this is someone coming through from someplace else because he gave us specific information that we had no way of knowing or making up or doing in any way. Here he is, he's coming through with the things that would tell us who he is. It doesn't get better than that.
Do you ever wonder where you'll be in 5 years?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. But I would love to, I mean, really, that my passion is really to be able to take this to the next level. I would love to be able to share what I've learned and to bring others who are like me to kind of give them the jump start into that road. For someone who's on the fence who can relate to what I'm talking about, to allow them, kind of like Mary. So the perfect example is Mary, who still don't know her last name. Mary, to be able to give the Marys of the world that kind of reassurance that what you're feeling is legitimate and it's okay to move forward. Okay, to be able to kind of do that for people, I would love to be able to do that on a continual basis. I don't think there's any better way that I would spend my life. Investigate this for a second. So when the experience that I had that I talked about earlier, the footsteps coming down the stairs and my office door moving, the other door, my wife's door moving and so forth, the photocopier going on by its own volition, no one being in the house, I was actually in the process of emailing an actor or someone who's on TV about his insurance. And literally as that occurred, I'm typing that message about his insurance and this is the policy you should buy and so forth. And so obviously the content of my message to him, not talking just about insurance and what you should buy, was, oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. So from that spurred investigation by, it's called a company called New England Paranormal, which is, we've heard of TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society on Sci-Fi Channel. This is the non-profit arm of the TV show. This is where they kind of train the people, and it's a non-profit organization that goes out and tries to gather evidence. So I sent the email saying, you're not going to believe it, this is what's happened. He called me up, we had a little discussion. The man who's in charge of the New England Paranormal called me up, we had a discussion as well. And from that, an investigation occurred. So they came on a Saturday night. I kind of explained to them the things that I've seen, the things that have happened, and wanted to get real evidence. So it's one thing that for me to say it, the other thing is for someone else to tell me. And that's why we had these seances. And I just don't want a medium talking to me. I want a bunch of people to kind of validate the experience. So this is kind of the next level of getting real information, real concrete information. Like when I talked to the priest and I said, you couldn't prove it. You know, give me information of why we don't just exist. Why shouldn't I just believe in me? And he says, well, you just got to believe. That's not good enough. So I need to have that next level, that next piece. So this team comes up and they kind of gather. I don't forget how many came, maybe 6 or 7 individuals come. And I tell them about the rapid battery drain, all of that. And they set up their cameras in the windmill because we had the footsteps in the windmill. One of the guys who works for me has heard these footsteps in the windmill, which was a wonderful experience. This was early on. And I kind of explained the voices in the hallways and the board running through. We have all the cameras set up. And they have all freestanding cameras. So no one's plugged in or anything like that. About 45 minutes into their investigation with these cameras running, all of the battery packs go dead simultaneously. So they have batteries hit here, batteries in the windmill, all of them go down. They're talking in their walkie-talkies. You know, did you charge up the battery? I thought you did. Yeah, they were fully charged and what have you. They can't explain it. So they're plugging these cameras in now. They're running extension cords to try to do the operation. So they're amazed by the fact that all these batteries go down, literally within moments of each other. Just done. They do the EVP sessions. They do all the kind of sweeps and so forth. And from the windmill, they are doing an EVP session, and they're asking questions. And you can hear clear as day responses on the audio. Clear as day. And there's one, they have like a clip that they showed me, and the guy's walking down from the third floor to the second floor, which is where a lot of the things happened in that windmill, was from the third floor to the second floor. So he's walking down, you hear on the tape, clear as day, you hear, wait. And you see the guy turn like someone's tapping him on the back. No one's there, because obviously this is supernatural. And you see a mist kind of following him down the stairs. That was unbelievable. And that group has been over 4 or 5 times, and every time they've caught something, and everyone has walked away with some kind of experience that they can't explain. And when they talk about that at the New England Paranormal and talk about their investigations, they talk about this house as kind of like the holy grail of their investigations. And everyone, when they come here, is saying, I've heard about it. And most recently I had a TV show here where they had they knew some of the data that they collected from the nonprofit arm, the New England Paranormal. And so TAPS is here. I kind of relate the experiences to TAPS. And they set up, and I was amazed because the TAPS TV show, they have a film crew, and then they have the TAPS investigators, and the TAPS investigators are literally investigators. They set up their equipment like they're doing an investigation. They're doing it all to themselves. It's not like anything different. And they're running the wire, anything like that nonprofit I'm going to be doing, these guys that are being filmed by a camera crew are doing. And it was really an amazing thing to watch the setup, to see what they do. And we had to leave the property. And I knew they were going to catch something. I knew something was going to happen. And they come back a week later to tell me what they uncovered. And I go through with them where I've seen certain things, where I've heard certain things, what's happened in certain areas, and so forth. And everyone on TAPS came away with a personal experience. They heard the footsteps in the windmill. They heard the 2 of the lead investigators heard the voices on my second floor, just like I've talked about, just like the guy talked about. They heard the voices clearly. They heard the footsteps up in the upstairs hallway, just like I told them. One of the stories I told them that I haven't talked about yet was when my electrician was working in the windmill. And on the 4th floor, he's up there wiring up some lights for me. He's up there with his girlfriend. And his girlfriend gets an awful feeling. And she wants to leave the building. And she says, no, wait, I'm almost done. Go down to the 3rd floor. She's on the 3rd floor of the windmill, and she feels someone come up behind her and like icy cold and start touching her on the back of the neck. And she freaked out. They left the building. He swears to God he shut all the lights off. He goes down and leaves the building, looks up, and the 3rd floor lights are on. He comes in and tells me, he goes, you got to shut the lights off. I'm not going back in there. And this was with my old assistant, the one that sent me to Cynthia. I say, fine, no big deal. I'll go out there and shut the lights off. We walk in there. We go up to the 3rd floor. She goes, George, you feel anything? I go, yeah, I do. I feel something. And as soon as I said that, bam, we hear like someone punched the wall below us. That windmill is solid as all can be. And literally, as soon as I said yes, bam. And she looks at me, and she's terrified. And I'm a little freaked out because it was literally like someone saying, yes, I'm here. I shut the lights off. We get the heck out of the building. I come down in total darkness, so I know those lights are out. I come out of the building, look up, the lights are back on. Okay, that was amazing. And I didn't go back in there that day to shut them off. So those lights were on for the whole night. I was not going back in there. So, and I relate that story to the TAPS investigators. What happens there on the 3rd floor of the windmill? And it's always with a woman. There has to be a woman present. The windmill, for whatever reason, really has something about women. They're on the 3rd floor. They're standing there. All of a sudden, they hear, bam, as they're doing their EVP session. And they thought the building was going to fall apart. And then Jason, the lead investigator, says, oh my God, I remember that story that George told us. It's exactly like it. They were just amazed. So the stories that I told literally came together and gelled for them here. It was one of the best investigations they said they've ever undertaken. It was really amazing.
So all of these things, the orbs and the sounds and the voices and all that, it's sort of like that's a common denominator of sort of getting people to accept what's really more available for all of us if we just open
Maybe it's like a progression. So it's kind of like baby steps to get someplace. How do I open up your eyes? How do I have you see when we've been trained not to see? So when there's this other group that's come here, numerous occasions, so now I really want to capture something. So I try to invite certain paranormal groups in that have a respect for that. So now I really believe in the other side and in my ghosts, and I want to make sure that if you're trapped on the other side and you're trying to convey a message, that you don't get taunted, that you don't get agitated, that you don't get disrespected to try to come through, that you try to be brought through and be coaxed to come through with respect. That we understand that you're over there, and it takes every bit of energy that you have to try to have you have a bang, to try to have you have some kind of evidence that you are over there, to try to bring you from that side to our side. It takes a tremendous amount of effort, and we have to kind of like work with that and appreciate that. And some of the shows I see on TV where you've got these investigators that are out there that talking, taunting and heckling. If you actually believed in what you were doing, you would never do that, because it would be like taunting the little fat kid in the schoolyard. You don't think of it that way. So for me to see that, I know you don't believe and you're an actor, because if you really believed, you would have that level of respect for that entity that's on the other side, knowing how much it's going to struggle to try to come over.
You mentioned that they call this sort of the holy grail of a location that's full of spirits. Doesn't that make it a better place for more people to be introduced? I mean, you may be in church once again after 30 years in a different kind of church. No, have you ever thought of that? Or?
No, I've never really thought. Well, I've thought about the little groups that I have, and about. I really think it's about me giving back, and about the energy of kind of my giving that kind of accelerates the whole process. So, it's making those people feel good, but in kind of the groups that I gather them in. But I feel that I get something in return, kind of like brownie points to the other side, by having these gatherings come together. So, because I couldn't do it without them. And I believe the experiences that I've had are so genuine and so real and so life-changing that by giving some of that kind of elevates me into the direction that I want to take.
Well, it's great energy.
It is. It is. It's all about the energy.
I mean, shared energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're building off each other. So it's not just me. It's not just about me. It's about kind of an us and a collective that can kind of help each other. So I help them. They kind of help me and kind of move me to, to another place, which is I'm hoping. I just want to really, number one, come together with answers from my house as to what exactly happened here. Because no question, a lot of things happened here, and I would love to be able to have a concrete, like that little boy that I saw early on that really started and opened up my eyes, that to me was 100% real, to be able to capture something like that on video. And I really believe that's possible, to be able to capture that on tape or with multiple people of us around and seeing something like that. What better proof is there? There's no better proof than to be able to capture something like that. And I really believe I'm on the cusp of really getting something like that. Something so tangible that is there life on the other side? Look, there's no question there's life on the other side. There's no doubt. And even to the disbeliever that you can't refute. Like if a saucer landed in Washington, D.C., right on the Esplanade, okay, if it came down right on the Washington Mall, okay, and it's there, and you can rap on the windows and say hi and look at the little green men, I mean, you couldn't deny it. There'd be people like, oh, it's a hoax. Well, if their DNA is different than ours, it's not a hoax. And that's the level that I'm at. I love to get that level of proof that I could hold in my hand. Because there's no question in my mind that everything that we don't see is 100% real. I'd love to be able to kind of hold that and bring it and say, look, even you're a disbeliever, you're like I was, here you are. Here you are. Here's my proof.
Right.
I'm spoon-feeding it to you. Mm-hmm. Just like porridge. Here's your porridge of truth. So.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So